everybody. How you doing? It's Christmas Day. It's Christmas Day. We made it. Told you we would. It's News to Ben. I'm Lee. December 25th, 2024. The new year is almost upon us. Sleigh bells are ringing. All the Yuletide cheer. This is the time of year when you get to use gay in songs, and you do not mean gay gay. You mean happy gay, the way it used to be. Make Christmas great again. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's News a bit. I want to give a shout out to Apostate Nate, who joined us at the top of the show, and also Glenn, who just joined us now. They're both supporters of mine over on patreon.com/NEWZ debate. So they will be joining us as a co-host for every show that they would like. If you like the show, support the show on Patreon. Also, send us text messages and leave voice messages live during the show over on my voicemail system. That number is 323-250-0867, 323-250-0867. Glenn was using that extensively on a recent show. Maybe a little too much. He told me, "Hey, Lee, I didn't realize calling the U.S. From Canada was long distance." So maybe Glenn will not be using that number anymore. Apostate Nate, let's start with you. How you doing, man? Merry Christmas. How you doing, Apostate Nate?
I'm good, Lee. Thank you. Merry Christmas. This is my first Christmas, basically as Santa Claus. First Christmas in forever where I've been single, and I had to do it all. And normally I had help, so that was an interesting experience. But I'm okay. You know, it's a nice, cool day here in Pennsylvania. It's not too freezing. It feels just enough like winter. My kids were happy this morning, which is really all that matters. As long as I can please them on Christmas, and everything else just kind of falls into place. And now, Lee, I am on my way to, and this is why I won't be here too long right now. Is I'm on my way to see the remake of Nosferatu, which is a really old silent vampire movie. It's been remade by Robert Eggers, and it releases today. So I'm super excited about that, in particular as a horror aficionado of sorts.
You know, what a better day to release a vampire movie than the day that we celebrate Jesus, who became undead himself. Yeah. So Nosferatu, I saw they made a remake. Does this one have sound, and is it in color, or is it one of those complete remakes, shot for shot, and you're going to be sitting there bored out of your mind?
I don't know. I would be surprised if Eggers went shot for shot. Robert Eggers is, in my opinion, maybe the most original horror director on the scene right now. I don't think it's going to be shot for shot. I actually haven't looked up a lot of the details. And to be honest, I kind of wanted to be surprised at what his approach is.
So I'm going to try to find this. Maybe IMDb will give us this information. Because I see value in doing it again just because it's been so long. But God, you'd think they would give it a somewhat of a 2024 spin by giving it sound and color. I'm looking at a preview now. It definitely is not black and white the way we would think of black and white. Maybe it's black and white, like tones of blue and gray, but it's not like the original. Oh wow, Lily Rose Depp. So that's a nepo baby. All right. It also looks like it has the Skarsgård guy from It, which I absolutely hated. So that's not making me believe in the film. It has William Dafoe. It's rated R, so that means it has to be different. Yeah, it has to be different than the original because the original is not rated R. My guess is it has sound.
Lee, I gotta stop you. What in the heck was wrong with the 2017 Pennywise?
I only saw the first one, and I wanted to literally be killed the same way he was trying to kill those young kids. I didn't see number 2. Maybe number 2 was better, but it was boring. It was lame. It surprisingly for a movie about a killer clown that kills children, it was unbelievable. Just like I couldn't believe the events that were happening. I've seen the original. Was it a TV movie? It's like a really long movie. I
Yeah, it
saw
was
it
an ABC
online.
miniseries. Tim Curry was the Pennywise in that one.
I mean, that's terrifying. I thought that was excellent.
I like them both, Lee, but if you want to find disappointment, watch the very end of the ABC miniseries where the children have to attack the monster inside this realm, this place where children are eaten, where their dreams are eaten. It's called the Deadlights. In the 2017 film, this would have been when the children were kind of floating up in there. And the end of the ABC miniseries really gets rid of that whole sequence. The 2019 film gives you about half an hour of it. Yeah.
I remember the kids, like one of the kids sprayed his inhaler at Pennywise, but when they were children before they came back as adults, from the TV movie, I remember, I don't think I missed a part of it. Weren't they like physically just trying to fight it? I don't remember a dream sequence.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would call it a dream sequence, but it plays like one. In the second most recent installment, it plays like a psychological thriller. But in the original, there's not really too much of a concept of this. You get a little bit of it, and then our heroes grown up, they killed this spider. It looks like it has the production values of a 1930 B-level sci-fi movie.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's from like the 80s or the 90s, but the story is better. The character development is better. I did like some of the actors, some of the young actors in the first It were fun, but like I didn't care about them the way I cared about the other kids. But I assume you liked the new the It remake better than the campy TV one.
Boy, they're so different. I don't know that I would say that I think one in quality is better. I mean, I certainly enjoy the 2017 version a little bit more. To me, it does feel a lot darker. I feel like Pennywise is absolutely more menacing. I think his design, their choice to go back to like
he tells like jokes and he's like dumb. Like in the first one, Tim Curry just looks like a clown, but he's fucking terrifying.
Well, Skarsgård's his Pennywise is playing dumb. Okay, his Pennywise ain't dumb. Pennywise is pretty sure of himself he's sure of himself as the eater of worlds and the eater of children, as he says in his own words.
But just watching him, I don't care if it was an act, it was stupid. Like I get that a clown that kills children for some people is not a good idea for many reasons. But if we're just going to accept this is what it is and you can enjoy it or you cannot, I like the clown that has those red balloons that like, sprays blood everywhere and every once in a while takes over your mind and pops out, but he's not really there and you can like wish him away and is more of like a physical being, even if he turns into this giant spider. But this, I don't know, like I felt like the Pennywise, I only saw the first movie. Of course, I did not want to torture myself with the second one, but it's a completely different actors. Maybe it would have been okay. It seems like a Saturday Night Live skit that's impersonating Pennywise. Like it's just dumb. I can't describe it better than that. Maybe I'm not an intelligent person and words are not able to describe my feelings right now. But I just did not enjoy it at all. If you took Pennywise out of the film, I liked the child actors. I thought they did a really good job. I thought some of their funny banter, which you don't really get in the first ABC thing, was fun. It had a Stranger Things vibe, and I think one of the kids, if not more, were from Stranger Things. So that was great to see, but ooh, no. But what would you say, Apostate Nate, is the first one better or the second one? Did I miss out by not seeing the second one? Because I hated the first one.
I mean, if you hated the first one, I don't know. I don't know how I would judge your possible reaction to the second. I don't know that I've ever heard such a stark reaction to this film, although I'm sure they exist. How am I right now, Lee? I'm a little baffled. I think there's a chance that you might like the second one better. The adult cast is terrific, particularly Bill Hader, okay, who fills the shoes in a dramatic role that's also comedic because his character is a comedian. But I would say that Bill Hader delivers the most heartfelt performance in that entire like 4 hours of film for the new retelling of Pennywise. He's pretty magnificent in it.
I didn't even realize Bill Hader was in there. I knew the young Professor X guy was in there, but okay, I did because I literally just like swore it off. I was like, I'm not watching this because it was so terrible in my mind. I guess I just don't like CGI. Like I like seeing old movies that even if they don't look great, they don't look like video games. I would prefer, old style Star Wars methods or like sci-fi movies from the 80s and 90s before it all got CGI. Like, Star Trek before they started using CGI starships and they actually had giant starships that they would film with cameras and have to physically damage them and build them and things like that. I just like the way that looks. So if it's done convincingly, CGI is great. There are movies you watch and you're not even sure what the CGI is because it's done in tandem with actual filming. But when it just looks like a video game and it's clearly not real, that's what takes me out of it. Plus, I just think the, the depiction of Pennywise in that first remake film was just terrible. He was not scary to me. He was like, oh, okay, this is what they've done to Pennywise. Where Pennywise in the first one, I don't know, it's just scary. Like it's really well done because he never at once is clown like. He's like an evil, scary guy dressed up as a clown, but I would never say he's clown like. This one is all clown. And you have to remind yourself, in my opinion, that, oh, he's a killer of children. So I would prefer, of course, the one that is never like a clown versus the one that I have to remind myself is trying to murder kids. And I just think the script it just has so many problems in the first one. Like I know it's a very different movie. It tells the same general story, but it's a very different path that they take, and I just don't like most of what they chose. Now the kids were way better in that remake. They were funny. It was definitely more up to date in that telling. But kids were not bad in the other film. The adults were not bad in the other film. There is, some, all right, we have to forgive this because of when it was made. And maybe there's a little bit less of that in these remakes. And maybe I should try the second one because it is a completely different cast, of course, when they grow up. But all right, whatever it is, Apostate Nate, but back to you. So you said this is your first time that you've had to be Santa and all that stuff. So you've talked about how you're divorced. Your wife did not like die in a fire. So does that mean that you had the kids in the morning, and now that you're going to see this Nosferatu remake, that she has the kids in the afternoon, evening?
Yep, that's correct. And I gotta admit, Lee, I was a pretty good Santa. I had several layers of security and ways of storing the presents that would have been very easy to hide had one of my children burst out of their rooms in the middle of the night. I'm not a bad makeshift Santa.
Well, I hope you definitely wore long sleeves and a coat because they're going to be like, why does Santa have tattoos all over his arms?
Why, why is Santa wearing athletic shorts and a cut-off T-shirt? I don't know.
That's right. Yeah. Santa's let himself go just like Pennywise in the remake. See how we tied it all together? That's really, really good. Okay. So over on stereo, I have my poll like I always do. This one is really direct. Santa is fun and helpful. I would have written for parents and kids alike, but you're limited to the amount of characters. And then the second one I have, he's a commercial lie. So I'm guessing, Apostate Nate, you're going to jump on that first option. You're down with Santa. You think Santa's useful for young kids.
Yeah, I do. It's hard for me to not think otherwise, Lee. And the reason is it's hard for me to look at the anticipation in the faces of my children, who very much, both of them, believe in Santa Claus. And I don't know. I don't want to say take it away, but that's what it would feel like to me. I know from my own experience and from the experience of others, I don't know too many people who felt ripped off in life because they found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. I think there are other truths out there that are going to come along and do a lot more damage to people. I mean, I guess it's possible that someone could be so, ungrounded in critical thinking that maybe a belief in Santa, wrecks them. But boy, I don't know, Lee. I have a hard time saying I don't believe that a belief in Santa Claus damages children. I believe it is the most harmless of all lies.
Especially when Santa Claus walks around in a cut off t shirt and shorts. It's not a big shocker when you find out that's just your dad. Maybe that's the way we should do it. Instead of Coca-Cola Santa, drunken dad Santa, cut off shirt Santa.
You could also have very, very unhealthy Santa, since his caloric intake over Christmas would be in the millions.
Oh yeah, because then it's not that you don't believe in Santa anymore. It's that Santa died. It's no one believes him anymore because he's dead. That's really good. The day I realized Santa died is different than the day I realized Santa wasn't real.
Woof. Merry Christmas to that one.
Well, you have to let us know how Nosferatu goes. I'm interested in that film. I could imagine it's something that I'm just not going to enjoy if it's really done in the style of the previous one. But if it is done with the same general idea, but much, much more updated, like a period piece would be if it came out in 2024 and it was not connected to a classic, maybe I could enjoy it. And in fact, as I was looking on IMDb, this one is rated R for violence and nudity. So like I feel like that's what it is. So I might enjoy this film. So you'll have to give us your hot take on that probably on the next show. I don't think we'll still be going by the time you get out, but stay with us, Apostate Nate, for as long as you can. It's always great to have you. Let's reset. It's Newsbait. I'm Lee. It's our Christmas show. Merry Christmas to you all. Merry Christmas to you. We're doing Christmas hot takes. I have videos prepared for the history of Christmas, the origins of Christmas. We're going to take quizzes and do all those different things. So let's keep it Christmas related, unless there's an absolute reason that we do not have to, in which case, okay, we'll take it as it comes. I want to give a shout out to Better Vibes. Better Vibes joining us. He's one of my newest patreon.com/NEWZ debate supporters. He's a longtime friend of the show, so it's great to have him. But before we hear from Better Vibes, let's hear from Glenn, who's up in Canada land. Glenn, how are you doing? Last time we had you on the show, you were calling in voice messages and you were drinking plastic bottle vodka.
Oh, I'm doing far less today. Far less. I'm just watching football.
Are you watching American football on Netflix?
No, it's just on one of my sports subscription packages.
Oh, okay, yeah, because there are two games on Netflix today. I think one of them is the Chiefs, and maybe the other one's the Steelers. I can't remember. It was strange seeing that displayed when I logged into Netflix recently. If I was a big NFL fan, I think I'd be pissed off by that. I don't like having NFL games on premium spaces. So if it's a cable channel or if it's a paid subscription service like Netflix, like the NFL receives tax benefits, a lot of tax benefits. I feel like they need to keep it on broadcast television, but okay, we'll push that aside. Glenn, the last time we had you on the show, you were telling us you were going to push your explanation of what happened to a different time. Would you like to do that now, or would you like to push it even further into the future. It's completely your choice.
I don't remember what am I explaining again?
Yeah, Glenn's had a good holiday. Yeah. Hey Lee, where am I?
No,
What?
no, I know where I am,
Football.
but like, what did I say I was going to explain again?
So
I still smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah, I can tell. So you were in a homeless shelter, and then you moved to an
Oh
Airbnb
yeah.
because a
Oh,
fellow
I'm still there. Yeah.
coworker paid for that. But while that was
Oh no.
shocking, and we're glad you're doing better. At least the last time I heard you were doing better, I was surprised that that was the update because I had no idea that was coming at all. So what the hell happened? We could talk about that now, or you could talk about it later. It's your choice.
All it was, just arguments and stuff, and one thing led to another. I said, call the cops, and she said, okay, she did, and then I left. I've been gone since. I'm still at the Airbnb, but no, I was the hotel room the first night that I was
Okay,
at.
so let me wrap my head around this because at some point you told me you were no longer with your baby's mom anymore. Were you back with her, or is
Correct.
this another girl?
No, it was her. I had to go back there because I moved in with a friend and that went south after like 6 or 8 weeks or whatever. So then
So
I went back for like
you
a
were
month.
back
I had
there,
to co-parent for like
and
about a month. I had to co-parent and stuff, yeah.
and
And
then
then
there
even
was an
that went south.
argument, and
Yeah. And
you said
then
call
police
the
took me to a
cops.
homeless shelter.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear you, Glenn. So let me just see. Like, just give me a yes or no, and then we'll go with no, and we'll hear from you. But it's kind of hard to understand you. I think your mic's not great. So, you were there for a month. Then there was an argument, and you said, "Okay, call the cops." And boy, did she call that bluff. So she called the police, and you just left. And then when you left, you weren't able to leave with stuff. You told me you like didn't have much on you other than like your phone and clothes you were wearing. So that was the case.
Correct.
And then the police didn't pursue you. It was just okay that you left.
No, the police are the ones that took me to the homeless shelter.
Okay, so the police. So you didn't leave because the police were there, and then they said you have to leave, and you're like, I got nowhere to go. So they said, well, we'll just take you to a homeless shelter.
Correct.
Okay. But then did you not stay the night at the homeless shelter? Did you then go to the hotel?
No, no, I spent one night there. Then I went to work in the morning, and then after work is when a coworker brought me a hotel.
And then another coworker got you the Airbnb that you're still at?
No, then I borrowed money from the owner of the restaurant I work at to get the Airbnb that I'm still at.
Okay. So are you going to have to just get your own place now? There's no going back to the home of your baby mama?
Yeah, basically it.
Okay. Um is there anything else to the story? I'm sorry to hear it, but it seems pretty straightforward. Is there anything else we're missing?
Not really. That's basically the story.
So what are your plans then? So because like you clearly didn't have money saved up to go to a hotel or pay for an Airbnb because those things were you received help for that. So how do you go from where you are now to I don't know putting down a deposit and paying rent for somewhere else?
That's a great question. It's what I'm currently pondering. I don't know.
And aside from like, I'm guessing even the best homeless shelter in Canada is somewhere that people would prefer not to be. Um, if you have to borrow money for an Airbnb, is it that the men's shelter? I don't know if you tweeted this or you sent me a picture, but I saw a picture of it. It was a room with just a bunch of beds. Was it not good? So is not an option for you to go back, even though it would be cheaper to just stay at the shelter and work and stay at the shelter and then save up money?
I wouldn't feel safe, really. I don't think. I just There's not really a sobriety rule there. Therefore, there's just a lot of people, a lot of different things. So I don't know. No, that's not really an option in my mind. I'm just figuring out what is.
And so when the police brought you to the homeless shelter, like they had room. So like this is good signs for Canada. Like they brought you to a shelter and they weren't like no room at the inn, Mary and Joseph. Go to the stall with the animals. They had room for you.
Yeah, they did. The first night. The second day, they did not. After I went to work, they no longer had room for me.
Oh, okay. So that was what actually made you need to go to a hotel and then an Airbnb, despite the fact that you don't feel safe there, was that they just didn't have room after one day?
The next day, that had been taken.
How does that work though? Like you were there. How can someone take your spot if you're there?
I don't know, man. I don't understand how it works. Maybe I didn't make a clear enough mention that I was going to work.
Oh,
It
okay.
is what
So
it is.
maybe it's just like whoever's there when they say beds are ready and you were at work and they didn't save you one.
Yeah. Miscommunication probably on my part.
What was it like when you got there? So they had a bed for you. Did they have to like interview you? Like what was the process like to go from I need a place to stay to okay, you can stay here, good night?
There's a lot of stuff to sign, a lot of rules to be read, a lot of stuff to be put in boxes. You're not allowed to have you're only allowed to have smokes, a charger, headphones, your phone, and like one layer of clothing. You're only allowed to have on you. And you're allowed to have any paraphernalia or anything on you. So I had a vape that looked like a cigarette vape. I had that for a while. And then I got my one warning because they realized that wasn't nicotine in there.
So you can have cigarettes, but you can have vapes, but you can't have weed vapes.
Correct.
Okay. But then yeah, you were none the wiser until they caught on to you. Okay. Well, maybe that was why they decided, oh hey, sorry, guy that we caught with weed, there's no more room at the inn.
Yeah, shit happens.
All right. All right. Well, best of luck to you. And I appreciate that you explain all this to us because it's just so fascinating. Better Vibes has dealt with homelessness in the United States. His situation um, did not have as easy of a quick fix the day of, the night of that yours did. So I'm glad that yours had that. And maybe that's anecdotal. Maybe that's a good indication of the difference between the U.S. and Canada. Um, but every time I hear stories like this, it's very valuable. So I appreciate you sharing that. We hope that everything's going well. Let us know if it's not. We'll try to do our best. I don't know what it would be, but we'll try to do our best to help you out and maintain contact with you. And hey, look at Better Vibes. He was dealing with homelessness sometime in the past, and he's in a much better situation now. I assume you'll be the same way. However long it takes, you'll figure it out, Glenn. It's a resourceful guy over there. Sent me a video of him cutting vegetables. It's very professional, Glenn. Let's also say hi to, Better Vibes. So we have Apostate Nate. He's driving to see a movie. He's going to see the Nosferatu remake. We have Frankie J. We have MC Funk, who are also patreon.com/NEWZ debate supporters. They haven't requested to speak yet, so request to speak and I'll approve that. We also have the Unwoke, who's a recent friend of the show, but we have Better Vibes. Better Vibes. How you doing, man? If you are available, Better Vibes, you can unmute yourself and talk. Otherwise, we'll talk to you later.
Oh, my bad. Hey, what's the topic about?
We're trying to keep it Christmas related, but it does not have to be Christmas related. I'm just checking in with people now, and then we'll do hot takes. So I just want to hear how you're doing, and Merry Christmas, Better Vibes.
Merry Christmas, y'all. I'm doing okay. Very shocked and astounded that Walmart again, that the Walmart had to close its doors for the holidays, for both Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's kind of baffling. It's kind of shocking, but that's the thing that's happening now. So that definitely is in the right direction, and but who knows? Maybe they'll pay me more than fucking $14 an hour. But man, I'm doing great.
You're working again, and I figured that you would be working today, but they're just closed. Is it just closed today? Was it open yesterday? Is it open tomorrow?
They closed early for Thanksgiving, for Christmas Eve. They're closed indefinitely for Christmas Day, but they will be back tomorrow. And I do have to work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, well, it's nice that you got some reprieve, man. That's great. Really quickly, MC Funk over on Discord writes, a lot of homeless shelters in the U.S. operate on a daily basis, i.e. no persistence. So you essentially have to try to get there every night in order to get an available bed. And then I replied that Glenn made it sound like that was not the case. He made it sound like it was some sort of miscommunication that they didn't have one for him. So maybe that was the case. Maybe there was that miscommunication. I know Better Vibes had told us when he stayed at a shelter for like a week or two. Was that right, Better Vibes?
It was for a week, yeah.
Yeah, you were able to stay there not indefinitely, but for that amount of time. And so I thought that's what the situation that Glenn was describing, but maybe it was not. Whatever the case, Glenn was there one night, emergency situation, because he and his baby mama had a fight, and he was like, call the cops. And she called the cops. And because it's Canada, the cops drove him to a homeless shelter. Wow. Just imagine what your police can do when you live in Canada. And now he's at an Airbnb, as he mentioned. So we're hoping things are still going to keep looking up for Glenn. MC Funk, if you want to join us with your voice, or Frankie J, if you want to join us with your voice. I see there's a request here. Yes, it is MC Funk, so we'll throw him up. Frankie J, if you want to jump in. MC Funk, we'll hear more from you. Better Vibes, stay with us. What's up with you, my friend? How are you doing? Merry Christmas. How was it for you and your son? Do you have your son today?
No, he's with his mom today. But I had him yesterday, and he came over yesterday. We kind of did our thing yesterday, and then I dropped him off at his mom's in the morning. They did their thing, and then I went over later in the afternoon, and we did a family dinner with just the three of us. It was nice. It was nice. I made a phenomenal pork shoulder, which I just posted a picture of.
I'm sharing that over here on Discord.
Yeah.
He writes that I made a bomb-ass pork shoulder today, put the salt and brown sugar rub on it Monday night, and let it do its thing for over 24 hours, and then popped it in the oven at 4 a.m. for 8 hours, then made a white wine and peach reduction sauce with the drippings. Yeah, you did. That looks nice. I'm not a big fan of traditional meat that is served on Christmas. I prefer something like this, some ham, some chicken. I think that's much better.
Yeah, and so I love big, complicated cooks, and I don't get to do it often, especially since it's just kind of my son and I. But when I do, I don't F around. I do it right. So, but yeah, it was nice. My son and I did our thing last night, and then he did his thing with his mom this morning, and then we kind of joint effort family dinner this afternoon, and it was good. It was good. So I just got back home and just kind of chilling for the rest of the evening.
So how does that work with presents then? So if he's with his mom in the morning on Christmas Day, that seems, pretty self-explanatory. But then if you had him last night and then you joined for a Christmas meal this afternoon, at what point do the the present exchanges happen?
So we did he actually, so he stayed the night with me last night, and we did did presents with him and I over here Christmas Eve. And then, when I took him to his mom's in the morning, I just kind of dropped him off. I didn't stay. I mean, I could, but I had meat to attend to, back at home. So I kind of just dropped him off, and then they did their thing with presents at her house. With just them, Christmas morning, we did ours Christmas Eve, and then so we just kind of do our own thing and just break it up across Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
And then young little Billy gets 2 Christmases. 2-0. 2-0 for young little Billy. Yeah.
Yeah. But we a lot of times we we try to coordinate on gifts too, so that we're so we're not we don't overlap and both get him the same stuff, but also that we kind of try to have a roughly similar kind of amount of gift exchange, so you don't end up with like one parent that gets a ton of stuff and the other that doesn't get them hardly any.
Yeah.
So we try to keep that balanced too.
So then, were there like certain gifts that you're like, oh yeah, that's more in my wheelhouse, so I'll get that, and you should get this one?
This year, no. There have been in the years past, but this year there wasn't really. He's super into Pokemon stuff right now, so it's like either of us can get him a bunch of Pokemon cards and stuff, and it doesn't really matter because they're all different,
So kids today like physical Pokemon cards and not something digital. It's still physical.
Yeah. They he's in 4th grade right now, and that it's still very much a thing. So it is very much a thing still.
Wow, easy to shop for. Just piles and piles of Pokemon cards, and just, I don't know, put that in a big box with a bow around it.
Well, it's kind of more fun if you have them kind of wrapped separately, but yeah, you got some other stuff too, but that was, I think, a big part of kids are often kids get, I think, adults often have the wrong idea about what kids would enjoy, because you look at stuff like Pokemon cards, and sometimes you think that well, these are only a few dollars, but a kid gets 15 packs of Pokemon cards, and you spend $30, then they may be like way more excited about that because it's all of these different things, and versus like you getting them like 1 or 2 big things that are more expensive, that like you think maybe this is cooler.
This is like a really nice pair of shoes or something from a player that he likes. Then okay, that's one
not
thing.
Even that, even
and
if
maybe
it's
they're
like
nice,
cool
but
toy
like
stuff.
cool toy stuff.
Even if it's cool toy stuff, even like just a small number of kind of like bigger things, versus kind of a larger number of smaller things, and that you may see as like this actually isn't as good as stuff, but the kid is like, oh, but I got like a whole bunch of different things, and they're all the psychology behind like what kids actually enjoy there is different.
Are you still getting him just packs, or have you tried like identifying a specific card and like getting it off eBay or something?
Oh no, I haven't dealt with that. Because to be honest with you, I don't think he it's funny, like most kids actually don't even care about the particular game aspect of it at all. They're just like, they just kind of like trade them, but they don't actually play the game itself. They don't actually.
Yeah, it's about interacting with other people, showing them your cards, looking at their cards, bargaining and things like that. Yeah. Life skills.
And
Thanks,
Yeah,
Pokemon.
and a lot of it isn't even like whether something is even better or worse. It's like this one just looks cooler, and it's I mean, it's very
They're not
much
even looking at the numbers on the cards. Wow. Okay.
sometimes they do, but some of it's funny because it reminds me very much of kind of baseball cards when I was younger, and and that when you're a kid, and like 8 and 9, and you may be really into baseball cards, but really like you're not into the stats and the players as much to be knowledgeable about them, and trading them with friends as like the value of
this guy
card
has
as a player. It's more of
sideburns.
like,
Your guy's bald. My guy's cooler than your
or
guy.
this card has a cool design on it and it looks nice, and like you end up assigning more of an arbitrary value to it. And I have come to find that is kind of the Pokemon card game with a lot of kids right now. So, but he got some other things too, but like that was by far the thing that he has been far more the most entertained by.
Well, when I have kids, I'm gonna buy all the candy corn when it's discounted after Halloween and be like 1,000 pieces of candy corn, little Billy. Here you go. Trade that with your friends.
Yeah, well, so
each
like
one's a little different.
That wouldn't. Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, he got some other stuff too, but that was definitely like the biggest hit. Was kind of this miscellaneous assortment of different Pokemon cards. That was probably the least dollar value, but like the most entertainment value for him.
There it is. Hey, Better Vibes. Do they sell Pokemon cards at Walmart?
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah. So you have your section up in front of the counter where they have like baseball cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Oh yeah, so
then,
it's like candy. They have it close to the counter so they could see it when you're checking out.
Yep.
Also that you will have some of your bigger packs like in the toy section.
I wouldn't be surprised. Everything of value at Walmart seems to be behind like glass, and you have to press a button to get someone to come open it for you. I bet some of those packs can be really, I don't know. I know the cheap ones you're talking about, just like with baseball cards, but I bet they have like some special ones, like they'll have special Legos versus just normal Legos. I bet some of those could get really expensive, but maybe that's more off of eBay versus Walmart. Whatever it is, I wouldn't be surprised one day if I walk into Walmart and I see, rather than condoms and electronic devices, there's like a big glass case full of like top tier A++ Pokemon cards. I'm like, well, that's 2024, almost 2025, everybody. Okay. It's news debate. So I have a bunch of stuff prepared for Christmas if we want to talk about the history of Christmas and all these other little fun things, but we have a lot of people with us today. So in the order of Glenn, Better Vibes, and MC Funk, and then it would be Frankie J if you join us as a speaker. Does anybody have any specific hot takes that they would like to share? A lot has happened in the last week. Otherwise, we have some stuff that I've prepared, and we can just go through and provide comments on all that. So yeah, let's just raise our hands if you have a hot take. It looks like we have Better Vibes first. Yeah, we'll go with Better Vibes. What's your hot take?
When I walked in, there was a person in here talking that the believing in Santa isn't detrimental to kids.
Oh yes, that was Apostate Nate. Yeah. He had to play Santa today. It's his first Christmas as a divorcee. I don't know what that is. And he just dropped his kids off at his ex-wife's place, and he's going to see the Nosferatu remake. And I mentioned over on Stereo, my poll, I always have a Stereo poll. Number one, Santa is fun and helpful to both kids and their parents. And number two, he's a commercial lie. Those are the options. And I was asking Apostate Nate, and he voted for number one. He thinks it's fun. He thinks it's like the funnest possible white lie, and it doesn't do any damage. What do you think, Better Vibes?
Excuse me. It is very a bad way to like enforce good behavior. be like, "Oh, you better be nice, or you're gonna get that coal in your stocking."
Were you here
Uh,
on a previous show recently in the last couple of days, Better Vibes? I learned about the elf on the shelf. I had heard that phrase, but I had no idea what that was. The elf on the shelf, you apparently put somewhere that is seeing everything, and the elf every night goes and tells Santa an update about your child. So it's even more be good. I mean, this is like a Santa webcam, is the elf on the shelf.
I mean, like, that's kind of creepy. But anyway, like it's a really bad way to instill good behavior in your kids. For them to be hooping and to be expected rewards for their good behavior rather than just to be good for the sake of being good. That aspect of Santa Claus and all that I strongly disagree with. Because it's not good. It's not good. Santa Claus as a character, yeah, a fun white lie, but like the things that surround the character, the stories, and like how it affects the youth, and like how we teach them, that could use some changing. So I'm not going to agree with that. It is harmful.
So if you have kids, what are you going to do? Because at a certain point, you have to address Santa. They'll see Santa online, images and movies at Walmart, at school. So what are you going to do?
He's a character like the Cat in the Hat. He's a character like Lord Voldemort. He's a character like Clifford the Big Red Dog. She's another character.
So we can have fun with Santa and all that stuff, but not real, and is just a character. So, yeah, just like, I don't know, do people, the Easter Bunny, I don't know that kids are taught that the Easter Bunny is actually like one Easter Bunny. It's just a character that you'll see around. They're probably taught that there's one tooth fairy, right? So that's a little bit more like Santa. But yeah, okay, so I guess more like the Easter Bunny. There's not like a single Easter Bunny that lives in a certain place. It is just a symbol, it's a character. Okay, fair enough. I can live with that. I'm debating whether or not I'll just be really legitimate with my kid and tell him even more. But yeah, that's a pretty healthy medium. I forget, MC Funk, how did you deal with Santa with your young son, who I always just call Billy?
Sure. Yeah. So I think this is something I've spoken on at length at on holiday shows past. But you know, in short, you know, I think we were, his mom and I were somewhat conflicted for some of those same reasons on how to handle the whole Santa thing, because you know, I don't like the kind of value teaching associated with it of, you know, be good to get stuff, not just be good to be good. And the so but at, you know, the same time, you know, there's more than just the presents and gifts aspect that kind of goes along with the Santa lore, if you will. And you know, there's and so we did the whole Santa thing, but never really emphasized, you know, you get presents for good behavior aspect of it, and kind of focused more on the kind of Christmas magic aspect of it, if you will. You know, and that we also, when it kind of came to presents when he was in gifts when he was younger, the stuff that came from Santa was always like the smaller things, but the, you know, anything that was a bigger thing, you know, was very clear that that came from, you know, mom and I. And the and then at some point, and we also were, whenever we talked about it, whenever he would ask about it, you know, was always kind of indirect about it, you know, and was never I always kind of left it up to, you know, well, how like is Santa real? And I'm like, well, what do you think? And he's like, well, no, like I want you to tell me. And I'm like, well, that's something you gotta figure out for yourself,
You're
and
wearing
I
that
would never
jacket
just
with like the leather elbows, and you have like a pipe in your mouth, and you're like, "Tell me about your mother." Like real,
and
real
so
psychological.
we were always kind of vague and indirect about the how real Santa was, but kind of stuck with it as long as he was kind of willing to entertain it, but tried to not go like full bore, like flat out lie about it. And I remember at one point, and I think this was probably the middle of maybe like a year and a half ago, when it was summertime, and we were just on a drive one day, and he and you could kind of tell that at that age, and at that time he was 8, and he was 7.5 or 8, and at that time you could tell that his suspicions and cracks were beginning to form as to the validity of the whole Santa, kind of really starting to put it together that like some of this stuff doesn't make sense as like actual reality, but it's still like a fun story to believe in. And he just kind of flat out asked one day, he was like, so I don't think you'll tell me one way or the other, but I think the stuff that comes from Santa is just from you and mom, actually. And and I was like, okay, like yeah, he's got it, he's figured it out. And so I was just like, yeah, you're right. It is just mom and I. So, but I also explained to him that like the whole reason we have that Santa story is that mom and I kind of did this with you, is there's something special about Christmas time and the energy and the feeling associated with it. And Santa kind of has that Christmas magic, and with the story, and having that, to believe in that, kind of makes it feel like more of a special time. And there's something kind of extra special for kids with that. But I also, we're not gonna just keep, we're not just gonna kind of continue to kind of gaslight you if you're not believing in it and don't think it's real. Then yeah, like, just be honest with you, and nope, you're right. That is mom and I, but that's kind of why we did it. And it wasn't trying to deceive you or lie to you, and it was really just wanting to kind of keep a special aspect to that holiday, while you were little. But you're old enough to kind of understand and kind of start to see more clearly as to how some of that maybe doesn't quite make sense anymore. So yeah, you're right, that is just mom and I. And he said, okay, good, well, thank you for telling me. Thank you for
Wow,
that,
thank
Dad.
you for not
And
lying to me, Father.
and and then he said, well, what about the tooth fairy? Is that real? And I was like, nope, that's also mom and I. He said, okay.
Son of a bitch.
He was just like, okay. It was just like, well, while we're at it, how about the tooth fairy? And I was like, yep, nope, that either. And he was like, okay, just good, just kind of getting that all out there. Okay, good, got it. So that's how we handled it. And he seemed to have been pretty well adjusted on that. We kind of basically went with the magic and specialness aspect of it, but really de-emphasized the behavioral reward aspect of it. And then when it was clear he was kind of figuring it out, then that was when we dropped it and kind of laid it out for him.
I think better vibes. Did your hand go up? Did you have a reply to that?
It didn't, but I will. There's always been a tricky kind of puzzle to find out on my end. It's like how does one retain the magic in Christmas without the character behind it? And like is it absolutely necessary, or do we just forego the character and actually start to emphasize the human aspect of it, and just be like, no, we're human, we're pretty magical, like we're completely capable of putting that sparkle and majestic flavor onto this one time of year that we just get together, have a laugh, and gained about 20 pounds and shoot up insulin shots because the pies and the cookies and the sweets and stuff.
Wow, that went dark pretty quickly. Yeah, we were pretty magical, and then we got insulin and diabetes and pies, and okay, yeah. All right. Well, I okay. This is helpful. I got no kids that I know of.
So something that I was also very clear with him when I, kind of confirmed his suspicions was, I told him like, no, just, something to realize is that you're also at the age where kind of right at this age, kids kind of start to figure this out, and some kids figure it out sooner, some kids figure it out later, some kids believe in it, some kids don't. It is not your place to like break that.
Don't
to
play God,
the other
Billy.
kids in your class.
Do not play
because you don't want your kid to be going to school being that kid that tells all the other kids Santa's not real, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And their parents are like, "Damn it!" So I was
Santa's
like,
not real, but you know what is Pokemon cards.
Yeah,
All hail the
like,
Christmas Pokemon card.
It's not your place to break that for other kids. Let them figure that out in their own time. And he was I understand that.
But like I went dark with that because like even in spite of like the insulin shots and like what one could perceive as negative, like there's still magic in that because you just sit there and enjoy yourself and know that you have the capabilities to enjoy despite what negative there is, and I think that's pretty magical.
That's pretty empowering. We're all Santa. We all have the magic. Speaking of magic, I have the magic of Grok image creation over on Twitter. Grok's for everybody now. Glenn has tweeted that ironically, the Airbnb he's now staying in is quite literally around the block from where the cops dropped me off when he stayed at the homeless shelter the first night. And in honor of Glenn's ascension from men's homeless shelter to hotel to Airbnb, I have a photo of Santa Claus sleeping in a homeless shelter. It is News Debate. It took me some time to do this because I kept asking Grok. I would say, make a photo, a realistic photo, so not a cartoon, but realistic, of Santa sleeping in a homeless shelter, and it gave me about 20 copies of Santa sleeping in a homeless shelter for Santas. And I said, no, normal people are sleeping in the homeless shelter. There's just one Santa. So here he is in the homeless shelter. There's a festive Christmas tree behind him, and it's nice and clean because it's a Canadian homeless shelter. Okay. So Glenn, jump over to, maybe I could tweet it. Yeah, I think I'll tweet it. I'll tweet it for you. Otherwise, it's over on twitch.tv/NEWZ debates and rumble.com/user/NEWZ debate. But I'm going to tweet this sucker for you. Santa's sleeping in a homeless shelter.jpg in honor of Glenn. So now let's do this. So that was a good hot take. Let's do a little Christmas history and Christmas talking and stuff like that. Maybe we'll keep the video for a little bit later, but let's talk about 12 of the most unusual Christmas traditions around the world, and let's start judging other cultures. Isn't that fun? Yes, I think we should. Great job, Lou. This is from the independent.co.uk, so I guess it's written from a British perspective. When you think about it, Christmas often seems like one wacky tradition after another, from bringing trees indoors and decorating them in rather loud accessories to serving up some pungent Brussels sprouts next to some much tastier plates. The UK is rather set in its ways when it comes to celebrating Christmas. I would say mostly in the US as well, but compared to other countries around the world, these Christmas traditions, whether it's decorations, cuisine, or present giving, are rather tame. Other countries don't waste time arguing over trivial matters like when it's too early to begin decorating the house or considering swapping turkey for a beef joint at a Christmas dinner. I hope beef joint is some sort of like medicinal marijuana flavor rather than a piece of beef. Instead, they're throwing off their shoes, hiding cleaning equipment, decorating their trees with spiders' webs or goats, and dining out at KFC. I'm guessing the KFC is a Japanese reference. We've talked about that before. So In Germany and Austria, they have the Krampus, and these are some great photos. I'm sharing these over on Twitch and Rumble. In Austro-Bavarian Alpine folklore, the Krampus is Father Christmas's scary friend, a devilish creature who punishes naughty children throughout the festive period. The mythical beast, who is hairy with hooves and large horns, is celebrated every year on the 5th of December in many cities throughout Germany and Austria, and a festival named Krampus Nacht. So I think it's just Krampus Night, often marked with a parade in which hundreds dress up as Krampus and chase each other through the streets. So better vibes. Would you rather raise kids with Krampus, or would you rather raise kids with the Coca-Cola commercial Santa that we know and love? I kind of like Krampus.
I mean, it's good exercise. You chase people, so it's promoting good health. Good health. Definitely. Definitely Krampus is a win for my tastes.
Yeah, I think if we had more of these weird traditions like Krampus, and I think I've read, maybe it'll be in this article, that Iceland has like 7 or 12 Santas and also like some sort of troll that eats children. I think it's easier to deal with Christmas there because it's so outlandish and absurd. Like, clearly, if you go to a parade and the kids see all these people dressed up like Krampus, like, okay, I feel like aside from maybe 1 or 2 kids being so afraid they have to be checked into a mental institution, they might get what's going on. But in the US, we have a somewhat believable Santa, and what I mean from that is that unless you do like a Santa pub bar crawl, you're only going to see one Santa at a time, or unless they have like some sort of weird Christmas 10K run where people are dressed up like Santa Claus. You go to a store, there's one Santa. You look on TV, there's one Santa. So Santa, even though he's everywhere, it's one person. But like here in this Krampus parade, there's like multiple Krampi. I hope they're called Krampi. Let's hope they're called Krampi. And when it's these multiple traditions on top of each other, I think it just becomes more of a, maybe I would feel differently if I grew up in this. But ours is somewhat realistic. There's one guy in the North Pole. He has all of his elves and his reindeer, and he's in charge of the whole thing. There's not like some competing demon Krampus that he has to deal with. It's just him. He flies. They track him on the weather. Christmas Eve, Christmas morning. Maybe we have the worst possible situation because he looks really cool. He's friendly. There's only one of him. He's not evil like the Krampus. So that's Germany and Austria. In Catalonia, in Spain, it gets even crazier. There are a couple of strange Catalan traditions, one of which is the cagatillo, or defecating log. In the fortnight leading up to Christmas, a grinning creature is created out of a small log and placed on the dining room table. The log must be fed every day with fruit, nuts, and sweets before, on Christmas Eve, it's beaten with sticks and excretes its goodies. Another fecal-themed Catalan custom is caganer, a small defecating figurine which traditionally appears in nativity scenes. In more recent years, caganers that are sold in stores and Christmas markets throughout the region have taken the form of just about any celebrity, from Donald Trump to your least favorite rival footballer. So these are there's like Groucho, there's Dracula, there's Star Wars, there's Che, Napoleon, some soccer stars, there's Batman. And I guess some of these you beat, and it's like a pinata. There's Gollum. And rather than being a pinata that breaks open, it's supposed to be pooping the candy. This is getting even worse than the United States. I can't think of anything that rivals that. Ah, yes, and then Japan, fried chicken. Oh no. MC Funk has posted on Discord. Let us not forget about Santa's helper from the Dutch, donned in black-faced, Zwarte Piet. Yeah, Piet. We've talked about that before. Yeah. I wonder if that's in this list. We'll keep it classy for now, MC Funk, and then maybe we'll get into the racist Dutch. Christmas isn't a national holiday. Is not a national holiday in Japan, but that doesn't stop a large number of people from celebrating Father Christmas or Santa Kurosu. Oh, Santa Kurosu. Oh, is said to have eyes in the back of his head to keep an eye on naughty children. While Japanese Christmas cake is usually made up of sponge, whipped cream, and strawberries. Okay, that's not bad. And a further spin on Christmas food, many Japanese people head to branches of KFC on or around Christmas Day, with the week leading up to December 25th reportedly being the chain's most profitable week of the year in Japan. Yeah, that's a real thing. KFC Christmas in Japan. Really quickly, there's shoe throwing in the Czech Republic. You hide your brooms in Norway. In Ukraine, when there's not a war, you put spider webs on trees. That's creepy as fuck. You have whale skin for dinner in Greenland. You have goats in Scandinavia. You throw pudding in Slovakia. That sounds great. In Slovakia, it's a Christmas dinner tradition for the most senior member of the family to throw some of the pudding onto the ceiling. The amount that sticks indicates the luck everyone should receive in the coming year. Come on, Grandpa. Wow. But yeah, I'll show this photo over here that MC Funk has posted in my Discord server. This is Zwarte Piet. So these are like adults dressed up like Zwarte Piet, but usually rather than elves like we have here in the US and some other places. I guess, elves are Santa's slaves, like, let's be honest, but I guess it matters less when everyone's white. When the elves become black children, that doesn't sound so great. The last time we checked that, I believe the Dutch were kind of defending it and not getting rid of it, which kind of just shows you that once again, despite that, Europe is in so many ways more liberal than we are, or more left than we are, I guess you would say. When it comes to government and social services, when it comes to progressiveness and culture, we have out liberaled Europe quite a few times. It's News Debate. I'm Lee. Got some more Christmas traditions. We can get to that a little bit later. I don't think we have to do that right now. Yeah, and we haven't talked about the Christmas market attack in Germany yet at the show at all. I've had it lined up for some time to discuss. I don't know if today's the day, but that's an option as well. Let's go ahead and check in with the History Channel. I haven't played the History Channel in a long time. It's a lot of fun to play the History Channel. I'm going to share that to make sure the audio works. We're going to learn about the origins of Christmas. Gold, bet you didn't know Christmas history from the History Channel. I'll interrupt it here and there. Once again, over on Twitter Spaces, it's a great amount of people. We got Glenn, we got MC Funk, we got Better Vines, we got Frankie J. Request to speak. Raise your hand when you have something to say, and I can stop the video. Let's just have a fun, relaxed Christmas show, and then I've planned to do the show for a long time. We'll see how it works. Maybe we can get into some darker topics like Christmas market killing in Germany. And just normal hot takes. I have some less fun, real news hot takes that I have assembled, such as the global hunger crisis is getting worse. Trump, after Biden has pardoned a bunch of federal death row inmates, says he's going to vigorously pursue the death penalty. Christians in Syria are not doing so well. And did you know that an actual member of Congress is living in an old folks' home? Apparently, they just realized that, and it's reignited the debate over whether or not we should have age limits and maybe like general mental health tests to serve in Congress. Good question. Let's jump over here to the History Channel and learn about some of the surprise origins of Christmas. It is News Debates. I am Lee.
Decorating trees, exchanging gifts, and singing songs about Santa Claus. It's what most people think of when they think of Christmas. But for Christians, December 25th has a more important significance. The holiday honors the birth of Jesus Christ some 2,000 years ago. But we bet you didn't know that in the early years of Christianity, Christians didn't celebrate Christmas at all. In fact, there is no mention of December.
So this is something we've talked about on the show a lot, and it's surprising, but then again, it's not, because it's happened so many times. The amount of people who don't realize that Jesus was not born on December 25th, like they have no idea that there are tangible data points that show that that's not the case, and they've never even considered that that could not be the case. Of course, you'll have people who will fight against, and they've heard that, they realize that. But yes, there's still people who think Jesus was born on December 25th. But what's interesting here is that it's going to point out the idea of even celebrating Christmas was something that had to be invented. This is not something that just began. And if you think about it, I guess it makes sense. Do you particularly celebrate the birth of the Lord? I guess, okay, sure, I can understand that. But how does that happen? Well, it's a process. And there's a lot of stuff that have to there's a lot of things that have to take place before we even get to the Coca-Cola Santa. So let's hear more from
December 25th in the Bible. Early Christians couldn't even agree on which date Jesus was actually born. It was only in the 3rd century that December 25th became the official celebration of the birth of Jesus, most likely because.
And as it's going to allude to, a lot of things were decided in the 3rd century when they were forming basically the canon of the Catholic Church, because there were Christians after the death of Jesus Christ who thought that he was the Son of God. There were Christians who thought that Mary and Joseph had an entire family and he had siblings. There were Christians who thought that Jesus was banging Mary Magdalene and that they had kids. They had to sort of rectify all these differences and pick an approved story. But not only did they pick an approved story, they wanted to entice other people. Hey, you guys got some sort of like winter solstice holiday, so do we. In fact, it happens just around the same time. That's not a coincidence. So we'll hear more from the History Channel.
Because it coincided with already existing pagan festivals. By the end of the 8th century, Christmas was widely celebrated across Europe. But its pagan roots died hard, and for many centuries, people marked the holiday with wild parties, similar to Mardi Gras celebrations. This would lead some.
And that's funny. That's something that I didn't know, that even once Christmas was decided as something we're going to celebrate, that was not always the same thing. It was kind of like a Mardi Gras celebration, but there was some pushback. And that's funny because the people who push back on that are the same sort of people who basically founded what it was to become the United States. The Pilgrims that came over to the United States, or, you know, the new discovered land from Europe, they were like super conservative people who probably were like, let's get rid of that Christmas Mardi Gras tradition that we used to have hundreds of years ago. Let's continue from the History Channel.
This would lead some religious purists, such as the Puritan settlers of colonial America, to oppose Christmas celebrations. In 1644, the Massachusetts legislature fined anyone who observed Christmas 5 shillings, which was a lot of money at the time. In fact, Christmas as we know it didn't really begin until the 1800s. That's when Germany's Prince Albert brought his country's longtime tradition of decorating evergreen trees to England after his marriage to Queen Victoria. When an image of the royal family next to their 40-foot Christmas tree was published in American magazines in 1848, the custom caught on in the United States as well. The tradition of sending Christmas cards also started in England around the same time. Giving gifts is a relatively old Christmas tradition, with roots going back many centuries.
So even the Christmas tree, which I always think of as like a pagan thing, and it would have made me think it came from more like Nordic countries or something like that, as we just saw, how commercialized Coca-Cola Santa has become. Well, before that, pre-Coca-Cola Santa was the magazine Christmas tree. This is kind of like a, hey, everybody, who knows about Christmas? It's not like great History Channel. The other video I have prepared sounds like more old school History Channel. But this is fascinating stuff. And now we're getting into actual gift giving. That's something that, if you really think about, doesn't make the most sense. So we celebrate December 25th as the supposed birth date of our Savior, our Lord, Jesus Christ. Christmas. It's right there, right? So I guess Xmas must be a celebration of the X-Men. Let's be honest. It has to be that. So you could like have a day for family, a day for religion. You could have like a big meal. Okay, all of that stuff. But the idea of giving gifts specifically on Christmas, if you think about it, Jesus was a guy who like didn't have a lot of possessions and he gave everything to the poor. So if you gave gifts to the poor on Christmas, that could make some sense. But to just give gifts to everyone else and to also receive gifts, Jesus was not somebody who was like, where are your gifts? I am the Lord. That is something that I think a lot of people also don't think about. Let's hear about the history.
Giving gifts is a relatively old Christmas tradition, with roots going back many centuries. At first, gift giving had religious significance, to remind people of the gifts brought to baby Jesus by the 3 kings. But the Industrial Revolution and the rise of advertising in the 19th and 20th centuries made Christmas the commercial holiday it is today, even as it continues to have religious meaning for Christians. What about the most famous of all Christmas characters, Santa Claus? He's actually based on St. Nicholas of Myra, a Dutch saint famous for giving gifts, who is known as Sinterklaas. In early incarnations,
Well, there you go, MC Funk. They don't show any black children, but there is your Sinterklaas.
Santa Claus wore many different colors. But after
His helper was
his helper. That's right, Zwarte Piet.
Yeah.
I don't see any Zwarte Piets here, so this must be his friend White Andy or something. White Nathan. Zwarte Piet, there's White Nathan.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that the kind of reading through the origins of Zwarte Piet, the whole kind of introduction of him was kind of geared around trying to de-emphasize the punitive aspect of Krampus, and punishment for being bad, and because Zwarte Piet was like, well, he's going to be the basically the helper that just kind of brings good stuff and doesn't dole out punishment, and I guess was originally depicted as like a black Moor, kind of from that kind of ethnic
Say
background.
that again?
But
Black Moor. I'm not familiar with that.
I think the Moors kind of come from part of Spain and North Africa.
Okay.
And
All right.
Yeah. But I think the depiction very much became kind of stereotyped and caricaturized, and is still it is it is a hotly debated topic uh, uh, within kind of Dutch culture, like presently. So, but there's it is one of their it seems one of their kind of one of their culture wars, if you will. We've got plenty of our own over here, and that is one of theirs.
But is it because like I don't think it's going away. I think every time we look it up, it still happens. Like maybe it doesn't happen at certain like government
It has
events, but like it's
so
still there,
it
right?
has certainly been de-emphasized quite a bit, and there are so like Amsterdam, for instance, still does Zwart Piet, but they don't do the kind of quote traditional kind of full blackface iteration of it, and more the kind of white person with kind of soot on them, as though they kind of went down the chimney,
Oh
but are not
yes, because
just
that's
like
one of the
full body blackface,
get out of jail free. Is that's like 18th century London chimney snoot right there. Yeah.
right? And but then that certainly removes the kind of caricature aspect of kind of depicting black people there. But I think there some of this kind of goes deeper to underlying roots of kind of we've had in the US for quite some time a long kind of cultural kind of and societal debates regarding our own kind of history with racism and slavery, and that's very much something that
And the Dutch
has
haven't?
been a
The Dutch weren't involved in
that's
slavery?
no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that that seems to be something that that they have not had the same
Yeah.
kind of emphasis on trying to culturally deal with, and more of just like, we're just not going to talk about that, and
Yeah, it's interesting. It
so
reminds me a bit of like World War II. So like after World War II, Europe was in shambles, and so like every country was like, well, we have to be socialist and we have to have national health care and all these different things. But the United States, despite the fact that we had so much to do in World War II, outside of Pearl Harbor, and I think Hawaii wasn't even a state then, like we didn't really, and there were like some balloons that Japan sent to Alaska and hit like parts of the West Coast. And we had like a Nazi submarine that like dropped some people off in North Carolina or something like that. Aside from that, the US was basically untouched. So we didn't have that sort of reckoning. And so if you go back further, like with slavery, like of course, all the slavery stuff that we always get called out for came from Europe and they were all involved, but it didn't happen the same way that it did here. And then they didn't have the Civil War like we had, and they didn't have all these other things that we had. So for whatever reason, they haven't had that sort of reckoning and national discussion the way that we have had here. Whatever you think about what America needs to do more of and whether or not it's done enough, it didn't take place the same way. Just like even though World War II was North America and Europe and the rest of the world, the aftermath was rather different.
right.
Oh, you're killing me, MC Funk. Yes, Lee. Agreed.
I mean, yeah, the just got it based on what I could find though. There's like this the traditional like full blackface depiction of Zwart Piet. That is like one of these kind of culture war issues that for maybe lack of a better term, like that is a hill people are willing to die on. Maybe not literally, but certainly like the support over that versus like, no, this is our history and our tradition, and like I don't care what your reasons are, you're not getting rid of that, and like leads to present day leads to like a lot of kind of violent conflicts between protesters and anti-protesters, and like the and
I'm gonna like read on the news here in a couple days. There's like a violent protest Amsterdam between the Zwarte Piet supporters and those that want to like say no more blackface, and they just like sort of gangs of New York fight in the canals.
I mean, like it is a thing, but a particular kind of topic of conversation there seems to be that the reason one of the big reasons this persists is because that national conversation has been kind of conveniently avoided.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know for a fact, but it's making sense. Let's jump over here to stereo and hear from Sark. Sark has an interesting comment about my World War II reference.
World War II was never actually settled. So World War III is just going to be whatever World War II couldn't finish, the same reason why World War II was whatever World War I couldn't finish.
So I would agree with you in the fact that World War I in many ways led to World War II. So the armistice and the way that they just made everything Germany's fault, even though World War I Germany was not Nazi Germany. You could say it was the aggressor in many ways, but it was just like a nation fighting, like has happened in Europe all the time in history. And then Germany like collapsed, and you had the democratic rise of the Nazis, and then they seized power, and then you have World War II. And then, well, look what happened after World War II. That led into the Cold War because Russia was the big power, and not so much with China. And then, well, okay, the Soviet Union fell apart, and what do we have now? Well, now we have China. So there's even some people that were hypothesizing as they were getting closer to taking Germany down. They're like, why don't we just like take Germany down, but team up with them and then start fighting the Soviets? Like that was an idea that people actually were discussing. Clearly that didn't happen. It turned into the Cold War. Well, the Cold War was won in many ways, but then see what we're still doing now with Russia. So, okay, that led into that. And now, I mean, the United States military has just adopted a new SIG rifle with a special round that is designed to penetrate Chinese body armor. I mean, we are literally preparing in every way that you can prepare for a war with China, which was allowed to sort of settle its own affairs after World War II. We did not interfere directly. And look what it led to. So in that way, I would agree with you. But no, World War II was settled. I mean, it was settled just like World War I was settled, but it just sets up the dominoes for the next thing. So maybe I'll just kind of meet you in the middle. Let's reset. It's News Debate. I'm Lee. We'll hear more from Sark. I think she's left another message, but let's finish up this video from the History Channel about things you might not know about Christmas.
Sinterklaas. In early incarnations, Santa Claus wore many different colors. But after a Coca-Cola ad in the 1930s showed him wearing red and white, the image stuck. From the date of the holiday itself to the traditions associated with it, Christmas has a long and colorful history. We bet you didn't know.
I miss the History Channel ones that didn't sound like that. There's another one here about Christmas from the History Channel that sounds more like what I think is like Prime History Channel. Maybe we'll hear that a little bit later in the show. Let's jump back over here to stereo, though, and hear from Sark. Oh, actually, Sark just left a message that was like, sorry, I didn't realize you could tell I was chewing. No problem, Sark. I give you the gift of I don't care. I didn't really even notice it. Had you not said something, I probably wouldn't have even realized it was a thing. So no worries. Okay, we could do any thoughts about that video, or we could just go once again into hot takes. If anybody has a hot take at any point, we can just go straight into it. I thought we would try to do a little Christmas discussion as it is Christmas, but actually maybe we need a reprieve from that. I don't have kids. I didn't have to be Santa Claus today. like so many people had to be. We heard from Apostate Nate earlier in the show how he had to do all that, and then he dropped his kids off at his ex-wife's, and he went to go see Nosferatu. So very quickly got out of the Santa mood. I guess we could pivot to a much less interesting topic. Well, sorry, a much less fun topic to discuss, but is still about Christmas. We could start talking about the German Christmas market attack. I know it didn't happen yesterday, but I've yet to discuss that here on the show. Let's think about that, and we'll hear again from Sark on stereo.
Here's why I think World War II wasn't settled is because the UK, when they gave back Israel and Palestine after World War II, they just, I don't think they drew the borders right. I'll be completely honest with you. So if they would have been more strategic with that, it probably would have prevented fighting afterward. So the fighting and the warfare between Palestine and Israel continued on and on and on and on and on because of how the UK redrew the borders. And then the reason why Russia's going in war with Ukraine is specifically because of land they believe they still believe belongs to them, as well as another country that's close to Russia. They're doing the same thing to them.
So, wow, we're going in fun directions. So, I don't endorse the history that you just mentioned about the UK and stuff, drawing borders. It's much more complicated than that. And it goes back even further before the end of World War II with settlements and things like that. But what I will say is that what was going to happen, whatever else we could have done to try to prevent it, as long as there are Muslims and Jews in that area, there will be nations fighting each other. The only way you're going to stop that is if Israel takes over the entire thing, or if we went back in time and said, we can't put Jews here. I know they say it's their land from hundreds of years ago, but they just can't be here. And we found somewhere else to start settling them. And once again, that's before World War II even. That's not going to change. That area is always going to be fought over. And even if you had entirely Arab Muslim control, I think there'd still be fighting because we see that in that part of the world. But maybe, this is a sad maybe, but if Israel just takes it all over at some point, maybe then there would be less fighting, but there would be a lot of fighting to get there. When it comes to Russia and Ukraine, it doesn't matter what we did after World War II, as long as Russia, USSR survived in any way, and they still exist today. Putin's a douchebag. A lot of people in power over in Russia are douchebags. They're going to try to reclaim territory that they say is theirs. That is just going to once again be the case. As long as Russia exists, it's going to be an aggressor. As long as China exists, it's going to be an aggressor. We can talk more about, has every attack by Ukraine been completely legal and not targeting civilians? That's a different discussion. But the aggressor there has always been Russia. So the old Soviet Republic, that's it. And there was no way to fix that unless you just completely blew past Germany and kept fighting World War II for, 10 or 15 more years, whatever it would have took. So I don't think that was something that was particularly done poorly. I understand why after Germany fell and Japan fell, the Allies were just kind of like, we're done and we're going to see what happens. Boy, did that set us up for some bad times. But I get it. Who wanted to keep fighting? And then once again with Israel, I don't endorse the history that you just said, but I think it goes even further back from the end of World War II. And it wasn't that they just set this is where people live. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened after that. Israel had a land grab. All the Arab countries tried to kill Israel and destroy it multiple times, but it just kept winning and winning and winning. And then now it doesn't want to give back the land that it won in those conflicts. And so once again, it's not going to change. As long as those two groups exist, Jews and Muslims in that area, there will be fighting. And I think the only way that fighting would end would be, oddly enough, more fighting, so that Israel takes over the entire area, and then it would be relatively peaceful. Because I don't see the Arab nations in that area sharing control in a peaceful way. Call me crazy. We're getting on strange and interesting topics. It's News Debate. I'm Lee. All right, Sark left me a message about healthcare and stuff. I'm not sure if that's the direction we want to go here. I don't know. All right, does anybody have any suggestion? We could try to have more Christmas-related discussions, which may end up being less positive because of the stories related to Christmas that I have lined up. Or we could just turn this into a normal news debate show. We could also wrap it up. I mean, we've been going an hour and a half, and I was expecting to do a big show today, but I expected to do a big show yesterday, and I just canceled it. It wasn't really happening. I saw that there weren't a lot of people involved compared to the last several days, and today might be a day people are getting drunk. They might be spending time with their family. They might be resting, and maybe today is not the day for a long show either. I guess I will make an executive decision here. I'd like to talk about the German Christmas market attack. So I'm going to share this article from the BBC over on twitch.tv/NEWZ debate and rumble.com/user/NEWZ debate. So the German police are looking into the security around the market because this has happened before. So how could this have happened again? And also they're trying to figure out how the warnings about this specific individual were, I don't know, not taken seriously or not taken seriously enough, because he was actually on authorities' radar before he ended up killing 5 people and injuring more than 200. So this is from the BBC. It's a few days old. Was trying to find some more updated information. There really isn't a lot of it. German authorities are facing questions about security and what they knew about the suspect accused of using an access lane for emergency vehicles to drive into a Christmas market in Magdeburg, Germany, killing 5 people and injuring more than 200. My guess is that he didn't hit 200 people with his car. There was probably stampeding going on. It's hard to imagine that would happen, but okay. Apparently it went on for a couple of minutes and he had a car. On a recent visit, politicians were heckled by members of the public, some seemingly outraged by what was criticized as a security lapse. But German authorities have defended the market's layout and security. It's kind of hard to recommend that they defend themselves in this situation because clearly it wasn't enough. Authorities are also fielding questions after reports they were warned last year about the suspect, with police saying they had evaluated whether he might be a threat. The suspect has been ordered into pre-trial detention on counts of murder, attempted murder, and dangerous bodily harm. Security has ramped up at Christmas markets across Germany since a similar attack back in Berlin in 2016, when a man drove a lorry, that's some sort of car, into a market crowd and killed 12 people. So that was actually more than twice the amount of people killed in this one. But then again, this one has 200 people injured. Open plan Christmas markets now have some sort of barrier around them. So I guess that would mean Christmas markets that just kind of happen without some sort of building around them, maybe open air Christmas markets now have some sort of barrier around them. That typically includes large concrete blocks, and that was the case in Magdeburg, where this new attack just happened. However, The gap in the barriers was large enough to allow emergency vehicles to pass through. Oh, for the love of God. They built concrete blocks, but it was big enough to allow cars to go through. Nice. That's a horrible idea. MC Funk has posted on my Discord server that lorry equals commercial truck, like a semi or a box truck. Okay, thank you for that. A city official told reporters at a recent press conference that emergency responders needed an evacuation route in case of a conventional emergency. So, in case there was like a fire or there was a shooting, they needed to have these concrete barriers small enough so that emergency vehicles could go through and deal with that sort of a situation. And this was approved by all relevant agencies that had a say in the plan. And this city official says perhaps the attack was something that could not have been prevented. Once again, wow. Don't say these things. German media has reported that before the attack, there were warnings into a potential threat from the suspect. The suspect was actually interviewed by the BBC in 2019. Wow. The suspect is a doctor from Saudi Arabia. He arrived in Germany in 2006 and in 2016 was recognized as a refugee. So 10 years after he got there. He's an atheist from Syria, and he ran a website that aimed to help other former Muslims flee persecution in their Gulf homelands. Wow, that doesn't sound like the worst thing. His social media was full of anti-Islamic sentiment and conspiracy theories. Okay, it's getting a little bit worse, but okay, it's not the worst thing that I've heard from a mass killer in the past. So it looks like there were many tip-offs about this guy, and one of them is believed to have come from Saudi Arabia itself, which once again is his home country that he was kind of rallying against. Saudi government apparently sent 4 official notifications to German authorities warning them about what they said were the very extreme views held by the man. Now, once again, he's an atheist, former Muslim who's trying to help other former Muslims escape escape Saudi Arabia. So I'm not surprised that they were saying this guy's crazy. It might have been more than that, but it's not surprising. However, the Germans may have thought that the Saudis were giving these tips as a way to discredit someone who was trying to help young Saudi women seek asylum in Germany. So, okay, this is a complicated story, of course. He was a prolific poster of Yeah, I saw that, MC Phone. We'll get to that in a second. Let me just finish this up. He was a prolific poster of anti-Islamic sentiment and conspiracy theories on Twitter. Elon Musk, speaking of Twitter, is criticizing German authorities about the attack. And in the morning before the attack, he posted in support of far-right political party Alternative for Germany, AfD. Love how they say far-right, but never far left. So they have a little map view here of the way the suspect drove. So he came in he basically did a square. He came in and took a right, then takes another right, enters the market, hits people in an outdoor area that's surrounded by other buildings, takes another right and goes back into the road, and then he was arrested. I'm surprised they were able to arrest him if he was in his car. I haven't heard anything about how that happened. I'm sure there are those details, but yeah, I don't believe for a second that this sort of thing is not preventable in Germany. I think that people in Germany have a right to be upset with their leaders and with the people who supposedly are in charge of protecting them, because they all failed when it comes to this. It's just hard to imagine a country that actually makes changes to how things are done when something happens, which doesn't happen when it comes to like school shootings or mass shootings in the United States. And then they just make really stupid changes, not because they refuse to make the good changes. It's just because the way they did it was idiotic. I absolutely believe that you can prevent every Christmas market in Germany from having people killed by a car or a lorry, some sort of truck, van thing. You just probably have to limit the places that you have these markets. You probably have to have less of them, and you have to go in and fill in the goddamn concrete barriers that are small enough to let cars in now. If it means that these Christmas markets have to have ambulances park outside of them and carry people on stretchers by hand, or just like in a hospital with the wheels like you normally see, like, so be it. Because right now, people throwing Molotov cocktails and setting people on fire, and then ambulances can't get in, that's not a problem. Maybe that's a new problem we'll have to deal with, but right now it just seems to be very easy for someone to just drive in and hit people with their car. So maybe these will be famous last words, but why don't we do something about that and worry about mass fire casualties later? Maybe that'll be the next thing. But until it is, why don't we focus on the thing that no one seems to be able to do anything about? All right, it's News Debate. I'm Lee. We got a slightly less horrible topic that MC Funk would like to deliver. So this is from The Sun. I'm going to pull this up. Your hot take, MC Funk, is the Teamsters Amazon strike, claimed to be the largest strike in Amazon's history and intended to disrupt the holiday delivery for Amazon, didn't really have any impact. So yeah, tell me about it, and I'll bring this article
up. So the Teamsters claimed this was their largest strike in Amazon history, with 9,000 Amazon workers. Supposedly it was the driver behind it was effectively, Amazon just refusing to negotiate in good faith on the union contract, and so they said they were going on strike, and specifically, clearly they were targeting this time as an attempt to have a disruptive effect to impact Amazon's business, which, that makes sense. That's kind of the whole point of strikes, is that, okay, well, like, we're not going to work then, and you will feel the pain of that. And then as a business, that will force you to kind of engage with us. And, that's the tactic. That's kind of what strikes do. And, that was the intent. The end effect was meh, didn't really seem to impact holiday deliveries. I certainly procrastinated last minute, and got stuff ordered on Saturday and got everything on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Seems by and large, the strike didn't actually achieve its didn't actually yield any kind of impactful results. So I'm curious as to the takeaway from that
video
for the union, because I haven't really seen any coverage on this.
Just started playing very loud, but yeah, clearly they didn't have the effect that they wanted, because this Sun article that you sent me says Christmas is in jeopardy as Amazon workers go on the largest strike in history and issue warnings over package delays. But like you said, that didn't happen.
Yeah, I haven't really seen much coverage on this though, which I think is interesting. Even from the various, I guess I would expect either the, I guess I could see the kind of left, the more left leaning kind of publications trying to not cover it, given that it maybe highlights
It highlights
that.
something that everybody is going to be pissed off about.
Right. Well, no, given that it would be kind of highlighting that unions didn't actually like their attempt to like strong arm the corporation fell flat. So that didn't work, and so I could see them trying to de-emphasize that. I would have expected more coverage from the kind of right leaning outlets to kind of highlight the futility of unions, if you will, or like why they don't work. But I haven't seen hardly any coverage on this at all. I saw coverage on it leading up to it that like, oh, this is happening, like, oh, this could be a big deal, and then like nothing happened and nobody said anything about it. And I think that's kind of weird.
So do you think it just happened, or is there a specific reason why it's not being covered?
I don't know. I get like it certainly happened, but I don't know. I guess I I think it's kind of strange that there's not more coverage on this, and because it, especially from the or maybe the maybe the more right leaning publications just don't want to cover it because they don't want to kind of highlight the issues that the unions are kind of standing against. But just in general, you see, you tend to see a lot of coverage for these strikes that have big impacts or the potential for big impacts, and then around them. I mean, if you remember all of the coverage around the Boeing strike that didn't end up happening, or was or not Boeing. That's not the one I'm thinking of. There was
I remember
another.
the one that Biden screwed everybody over with. Was that the rail strike? He forced them to go back
Yeah,
to work without giving them paid sick days or whatever.
yeah. The that played out kind of differently. I do think that was I do think that was really crappy how that kind of played out at the time, but kind of the after effects of that though, they did. I guess there was the various members of the administration did continue to kind of essentially mediate that interaction and actually get
Oh,
some
so they
concessions and
got them
changes.
all. They got all those things that they wanted that they forced them to not have. All of them.
Not all of them, but I think they
Oh,
got some of them.
okay.
But they basically said, no, you can't strike. Go back to work. And then while you do that, we'll like work on getting you some of those things, but you can't strike. And they were able to get some of those things. I think they got a few paid sick days and some time off. But you know, I generally I think that sort of kind of intervention is problematic. But yeah, just I think this I think this strike in particular, like I think it's kind of weird that there hasn't really been any coverage on it. That there was like a little bit of coverage that like this was going to be a big deal, and then like they did it and nothing like in basically it went entirely unnoticed. And I wonder, part of me wonders if like when you look at the raw numbers, it's like 9,000 workers sounds like a big deal, but maybe it's more that like, well, Amazon is such a large company that actually 9,000 workers going on strike is like, a Tuesday, when like the
Yeah,
number of
that's
people just
nothing,
don't
right?
show up for one reason or another, and that could be, but like I don't know. And I can't really find much on it. And I think that's kind of weird that like, you know, that there's like no coverage on this. And maybe that's what it was, but I don't know.
Frankie J, who's joining us on Twitter, but now with his voice, feel free to request to speak, Frankie. One of my supporters over on patreon.com/NEWZ debate. He's tweeted an AP story. Oh, I thought it was more recent. No, sorry. It's around the same time as the one that you tweeted. Amazon workers affiliated with the Teamsters Union continuing a strike on Friday at 7 of the company's delivery hubs just days before Christmas. But yeah, I guess the question would be, why wasn't this covered more? And where's the follow-up that, everyone here in the newsroom got their packages from Amazon, and everyone we spoke to got their packages from Amazon. So did this really have the effect that the Teamsters said it was going to have, which we read from the Sun? They said it was going to perhaps jeopardize Christmas. And that doesn't seem to have happened. So basically, think about the Empire in Star Wars. In A New Hope, they blew up the Death Star. What did they do? They built a new Death Star. So if you have 9,000 people, like you were saying, MC Funk, and they're ready to protest and not work, well, can Amazon just move people over from some other places and still make up the difference and a reduced but still acceptable capacity? Is there redundancy built into Amazon so that if, a handful, this is what the internet was designed for. So the basic precursors, how America should be and rightfully is credited with coming up with the internet, was that it was a defense initiative. It was, we need to send electronic messages from city to city. And if some of the cities are nuked, but the other ones are still functioning, how do we make sure the information still gets through the system? And it came up with like packets and all these other things. I'm sure MC Funk knows more about it than me, but we've discussed it on the show before. That was the basic idea for what we now have as the internet. What did that do? It made it so that electronic messages and communications could still take place even if several major cities are gone. Maybe Amazon has that capability already. If you think about it, how many people get Amazon deliveries every week? And if you live in major cities, how many people get Amazon deliveries the same day? Even if you live rurally, you must have seen an amazing turnaround in how quickly you get your Amazon packages now versus however many years ago. So if they have this huge strike, is that enough? You blow up a Death Star, you knock out 10 Star Destroyers. Doesn't the Empire have thousands of Star Destroyers? That's one of my problems with the Star Wars universe, is that I don't think they ever really correctly identify how the Rebel Alliance never ever had a chance in hell, yet somehow they ended up victorious. Yeah, back to you, MC Funk.
Yeah, so I kind of as we've been talking through this, because I'm going to be honest, I hadn't thought too much about this other than as you were going through, I was trying to think of hot takes, because I was like, I haven't really been following the news too much, and then it just kind of hit me. I was like, what actually happened with that strike? And that's when I dug in, and I was like, nothing came of that. What's the deal with that? And so as we've been talking, I've been digging more into this, and I think it may just be a numbers game, in that there's, because the Teamsters union would effectively span their kind of distribution centers and delivery truck drivers, and kind of looking back at from a year or two ago, when there was some other issues around some of those sectors of Amazon. I've seen things saying that they've got 800,000 workers at their distribution centers and delivery trucks. So if 10,000 people strike, you wouldn't even notice that. So it may just be a numbers game that they tried to play it up as, but and what I don't know is was that all of the actual workers that were covered by the Teamsters union, or was it that no, it covers a lot more, but just that was how many actually agreed to partake in it? That's also not clear to me, because I do know, especially around the holiday season, especially in the warehouse and fulfillment centers, Amazon onboards just a ton of just temporary
seasonal
workers that wouldn't be covered by anything. they wouldn't be covered by any kind of protection, I would assume. And nor if they were, would probably most of them probably wouldn't actually partake in it, because the whole reason they're doing that is just because, like, yeah, this is just kind of a short-term gig that we know is just going to grind really hard, but just kind of picking up some extra holiday cash, and then that's it. So I don't know what the deal is, but it was. I remember just this strike in general being like a thing that was talked about quite a bit, that seemed to have gotten built up to like having
one
zero
entity,
impact.
the sun. Well, it's the sun, but they say Christmas might be in jeopardy. It was thought to be bigger than it turned out to be.
Well, I mean, I think maybe it was as big as they said it was going to be, but the impact was much smaller. The strike was as big as they said it was going to be, but turns out that 10,000 was almost meaningless.
The effect was not nearly what they predicted could have been.
Because
all of these things happened, right? They had these multiple locations. There's this video that auto played annoyingly a moment ago, and you ordered your stuff a handful of days before Christmas, and it all arrived.
Yeah. So I have not been able to actually determine anything on this other than
let's look at this.
That's what I'm inferring what happened.
Yeah,
but
let's look at this another direction. So has Amazon successfully built a company that is union proof, that is walk off proof, that can do whatever it wants? Maybe.
Well, it may just be that because there have been a lot of efforts to kind of unionize different Amazon locations, and over the past several years, and this may be that they tried to play their hand before they had enough cards, and so this could very well have a different outcome if in a couple years' time the union has a much stronger foothold across Amazon. But at least maybe as far as the kind of amount of the workforce they cover now, they don't really carry enough weight to demand anything. Again, I don't actually know this, but this is kind of what I'm inferring based on what I'm able to discern so far. But I don't see enough coverage on it to.
Yeah, with all the production that we used to have in the United States, like automobiles and just like everything, the way how, back in the 50s and 60s, you could imagine working for some factory for your entire life and retiring with a nice pension. Clearly not the case anymore, but back when you thought that was the case, and some people did it to give you that idea, did we have anything ever rivaling the size of Amazon now? It might be just that the unions have never dealt with this and they don't know how to deal with it. It might be that it's not that they just don't have enough union members. Like maybe they'll never have enough union members.
I mean, that could be with the nature of just how many kind of short-term employees they have. I think a union is likely much more appealing to somebody who has a long-term job, at a particular place, and when that's has me thinking now what the average tenure of Amazon workers are, because
so you have a company that's super large, but it relies a ton on seasonal workers, and because of the nature of the work, mostly unskilled labor, you just have a lot of turnover, so you're not going to have people who join unions, and you're not going to have people who want to join because they're seasonal. Wow. Amazon may have become union proof. Jeff Bezos, everybody. Everyone gives Elon Musk credit, but holy cow. You can imagine people at Tesla and people at SpaceX, like they might want to, I don't know if they do already, but they might want to have a union. They might want to fight for their rights because they're rocket scientists. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Amazon's a bit different. Better Vibes, you're with us. You're at Walmart. You've worked at several different Walmarts. You've left. You've come back. You're working at Walmart currently. Not today, luckily, because your local one is closed, but you will work tomorrow. If you can jump in here, you're listening. I don't know if you can jump in though. I'd love to hear. Do Walmart employees ever talk about strikes and things like that? I don't know what the status is of unions and Walmarts. I'd have to look that up. My guess is there's probably not a lot of union representation in Walmarts. I'll have to fact check myself, but Better Vibes, can you throw in at all from a Walmart perspective?
So they don't really go over protests and whatnot. Just so when you're hired, you have your training videos and whatnot. And recently they pumped one out, not from protesting against Walmart, but like protests in general. Because like the elections and stuff. But like to that extent, that's the thing. But we really don't go over like what if others like want to unionize and go against Walmart. It's not really a thing that we go over. No.
So I'm over on Chat GPT now. I'm sharing this to twitch.tv/NEWZ debate and rumble.com/user/NEWZ debate. It says Walmart, the largest private employer in the US, so even more than Amazon, has historically opposed unionization efforts. And as of now, there are no officially recognized unions for Walmart workers in America. The company has adopted strong anti-union stances and implemented various measures to prevent union organizing. However, there are worker advocacy groups like Our Walmart, Organization United for Respect, I don't like that acronym, that have emerged to advocate for better wages, benefits, and working conditions. These groups are not formal unions. Globally, some Walmart employees are unionized in other countries like Canada and Mexico, where labor laws and workplace cultures differ. Jesus, even in Mexico, the Walmart employees are unionized rather than in the US. Wow. Crazy. MC Funk has posted over on Discord something from his Chat GPT, so I'll read that now. I'm going to bring up this photo of Santa Claus sleeping in a homeless shelter in honor of Glenn to replace my screen. His Chat GPT says Amazon's transportation and distribution workforce experiences notably high turnover rates, leading to relatively short average tenures. In California counties with Amazon fulfillment centers, the annual turnover rate for warehouse workers exceeded 100% in 2017. Wow. Indicating that and that was almost 5 years ago, indicating the number of workers leaving their jobs each year surpassed the total number employed in those positions. This high turnover suggests that many employees in these positions have tenures of less than a year. Additionally, a pay scale report noted that Amazon's overall median employee tenure is approximately 1 year. So people don't stay long enough at Amazon to, I guess, be interested in a union, for a union to really take hold. My question is that even Walmart, I think, probably has more retention rate than Amazon. I don't know for a fact, but I have to believe that they do. And they've been unable to get unions going at American Walmarts. I'm trying to think, even if Walmart is the biggest employer in the US, Amazon is much more of a dynamic company than Walmart. Walmart has walmart.com. You can ship from there and stuff, but Amazon just does so much more and operates warehouses like everywhere now. So is it the nature of the work for Amazon that has something to do with it that's different than the nature of the work for Walmart? Because Walmart tenure has to be higher than Amazon. I don't know. That's a good question. It might just be that both companies have kind of become union proof, but while people, I think, in the past paid more attention to Walmart and how poorly they treat people, Amazon seems to be the focus now, perhaps because of Jeff Bezos, um, his actions with Blue Origin, the SpaceX competitor, and owning the Washington Post and just other things. Maybe he's become Lex Luthor. Also, he's bald white guy, so he looks like Lex Luthor. Whatever the case, I feel like we're paying less attention to Walmart because everything I just said about Amazon, I guess you could say about Walmart.
Yeah, like sorry, Walmart. Excuse me.
Wow, you need to
Walmart
order
has
some
been
cough drops from Amazon on MC Funk.
yeah, but yeah, Walmart has been fighting pretty hard against unions, and back in looks like 2000, there was a meat department store in a meat department at Walmart in Texas that
You mean like a deli?
unionized. Well, it was like the whole meat department
Oh,
in
okay. So where they
Walmart,
cut up
and
everything, yeah.
yeah, right, and I guess the meat department unionized at this one store, and at this one store, and Walmart responded to it by just eliminating the meat, like the whole like butcher departments company wide. It was like, fine, you know what? We'll just do prepackaged meats instead. That's it. We won't have workers for a meat
Walmarts don't
department
have
anywhere.
so all of the stuff that all of the meat they sell is like, are you talking about like cuts of meat, like steaks and stuff? That has to be cut at Walmart, right? Or is that just brought in?
No, it's like it's all prepackaged now.
Oh.
Or they do it offsite, or maybe they get it from a kind of meat processor, and just bring it in. But like they don't have like at a a lot of grocery stores, the meat departments, they actually have kind of a butcher on site, and that, and not just for the deli, but for that kind of cut the meat on demand, or at least for each day. And there was like the meat department at one Walmart store in Texas unionized in 2000, and Walmart responded by just getting rid of their like meat cutting departments company wide. Like, like that's okay.
Yeah.
Like
Bold move.
that's how they do it. Yeah. But I remember when I was in college, I had my roommate used to like, he worked at Walmart on and off kind of part time, and he worked in their like their instant or their photo lab, back when digital cameras were not so prolific, and you has to go drop film off, and he used to tell me how he remembered at the time, like they would regularly have these training videos of basically telling everybody, like, don't join a union, unions are bad. And I think eventually Walmart got in trouble for that, but at the time he was like, oh yeah, they tell us all the time about how unions are bad and we don't want to join unions. But yeah,
Well,
that
it
was probably
seemed to work for
late
them.
90s and early 2000s when that was happening. But yeah, I mean, Amazon or Walmart pushes pretty hard to avoid unions.
Wow. Okay. Well, touche to Walmart as well. I knew Walmart, was so anti-union, but once again, I thought Amazon had some secret sauce, and it looks like no, it's just tapped into everything Walmart has, except turn every Walmart store into some sort of like Amazon fulfillment center, and I guess you have the same thing because those are
Well, and
everywhere
so
now.
I think you see a lot of these same things, these same kind of tactics that with Amazon, and so like it was in the early 2000s, there was a Walmart in Quebec that like had unionized, and shortly after, Walmart just closed the store. They're like, fine, we'll just get rid of the store. And that had the desired chilling effect of further unionization efforts of Walmart in Canada.
Again, you destroy our Death Star, we build another Death Star.
Yeah, it was just we won't build it here. We'll build it over there where they're not going to break it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
many
so,
problems with Star Wars, but they really did play up the Empire too much. It's like Superman. Any Superman
Yeah.
movie that comes out now, I just laugh at it because it's like you can't stop him. Like Batman versus Superman, okay, maybe it's entertaining, but like he's literally Superman. Like this cannot take place. And with the Empire, like I don't care what you guys do. Great job. They're going to kill all of you and your family members, and they're going to blow up your planets. Walmart, okay, yeah, unionize. We don't have butchers anymore. Unionize, that store is closed. And then I guess Amazon, because they have such low tenure, I guess maybe that's the secret sauce. I have to imagine working for Walmart is slightly better in a lot of ways than working in an Amazon fulfillment center or being one. I've had people on the show talk about being Amazon delivery drivers and the ridiculousness that they have to deal with every day. So I guess Amazon's secret sauce is that no one lasts long enough to join a union.
Yeah, and so it looks like just again just more digging into Walmart and their dealings with unions. It does seem that they're fairly adaptive to the labor market that they happen to be in, and it's essentially like if they can get away with fighting the union by just like dropping a store here or there, then where that happens to be, then they will. But in July earlier this year, like Walmart workers in Chile striked to kind of demand with various demands, and they striked for 6 days, and it ended with like Walmart basically extended their labor contract by 18 months. And so that was perhaps in that particular environment, they kind of just did the math on it, and they're like, well, okay, if this is going to impact all of Chile, it is just going to be more financially tenable to deal with negotiating here than not, versus in these other environments that may not be as kind of broadly, where the union support is more fractured, then they can kind of get away with just saying nope.
When they can just play those videos that your college roommate had to watch, yeah, they can get away with it.
Yeah, but at least in Chile of earlier this year, they were like, yeah, okay, well, we'll deal with the union because that's more financially in our interest than just abandoning Chile.
What is it like going to a Walmart in Chile? Bienvenidos a Walmart. What is that like? Is it the exact same? Like what? Is it like a McDonald's? Like wherever you go, it's always the exact same? It has to be different. Fascinating. I bet they sell different products. Yeah, man, I'd love to go to could you imagine if you lived in a town that had like a Walmart from every country that Walmart existed in? Oh man, that'd be so fun.
So I had there was and I may have brought this up before, but years ago, it was maybe 10, it's probably about 10 or 11 years ago, when my then wife, we went on a vacation to Morocco, and while we were there, there was some like stuff that we didn't bring with us that we needed, and we had a tour guide basically for the whole time we were there, and he he took us to Marjane.
So you guys, as a couple, had your own personal tour guide?
Yeah.
Wow, I've never done that. Do you do that often?
No, but that was that was how I that was the end result of my adventures in crypto. I had a Bitcoin miner for that I ran for about a year, and made about probably $8,000 off it, and then we.
You mean you did that thing where you just like have computers hooked up to your Wi-Fi and just you're just doing that whole thing, and then
but it was just like
and
but it wasn't like a whole huge thing. It was like one device, and this was back in the early days when because this was 10 years ago when there were not a lot of dedicated mining hardware, and I'd gotten a box, and it was like $1,000 for this box, and it ran for about a year. At which point, it was no longer tenable to like produce anything. But I ran it for a year, made
You
about
mean like the
$8,000.
hardware like melted? Like, well, why didn't it work?
No, because so like the way Bitcoin works is over time, the difficulty to like mine Bitcoin to kind of solve a block to generate a Bitcoin, that goes up. So essentially, kind of for a given amount of hardware, it becomes less and less productive the longer you run it.
Okay.
so-
So for the
yeah.
year you did it, you made 8,000. So you made a $7,000 profit because you invested $1,000. Around what year was this?
This was, let's see, probably 2013-ish.
Wow.
Yeah. 2012, 2013. Made about $8,000, and then we took a 2-week vacation to Morocco with that. So
And you literally just bought the box and plugged it in and just sat there for a year.
Yep.
Did you have no idea like what your profit was going to be, so you couldn't buy like 10 of them and then make that amount of money?
I mean, like all of these things are risky, and it was kind of like, well, okay, this is what I can afford to kind of as an experiment, and if it pans out, great, and if it doesn't, then like, well, okay, like I'm out $1,000, but it's not the end of the world, and like, yeah, that would suck, but if something comes of it, then woohoo, so but yeah, so took that, and we took a 2-week vacation to Morocco with a private guide. It was awesome. But bringing it back though, we had some stuff that we had to get that we didn't have, and so on like the third or fourth day there, he took us to Marjane, which was like the Moroccan Walmart, and that was fascinating because like it is like it's you're kind of getting this window into just like normal everyday life for people that isn't like part of like vacation tour stuff, and and this is just people doing their normal day stuff, that was just it was fascinating to see, and because like a lot of it was very much like, hey, wow, this just looks like a Walmart. Also, very clear this is in Morocco because in the produce section, there's like these giant vats of just spices. Like it's okay. And then over here, there's just like random stuff like you would see at a Walmart,
Like a vat,
And,
like with like a shovel, like you'd have in a candy store where you just scoop out the spice.
Yeah, just like bulk, huge, like burlap sacks of bulk spices. It's like, oh, here's 100-pound bag of cumin seed, just like in the produce section. Okay. But that was fascinating, and there's I will never forget this one particular incident there, and it was as we were checking out, and it's just it seems like a weird little thing, but it was kind of this incident that kind of gives you this realization of how much the same people are regardless of where you're at, where we were like we'd gotten the stuff we needed to get. It was only a few things, but we were standing in line to pay, and because it's just set up like a Walmart, at the in the lane for the cash register, they've like as you approach, they've got like candy on racks right next to the register, and they do that because they want you to try and buy stuff as you're going by there, and anybody who's ever seen kids go through there, they're always reaching and grabbing for that candy as you go up to the register. And there was this woman in front of us with these 2 small kids, that looked like they were, I don't know, single digit ages, and this one kid kind of reaches out for a candy bar as we're approaching the register, and she kind of slaps his hand and goes "la," which means no in Arabic, and it was just kind of this moment where it was like, this is literally a scene that you would see
Arabs
happen
are just
in any
like
country.
us.
And
They're just like us.
yeah, it was just because I mean, like it sounds kind of weird and silly when you put it like that, but like when you're going on vacation to a place that you see as kind of so different from where you're at and kind of exotic, and it's like this is Morocco and it's like a different world, and but then like you see that and it's like this is literally something that plays out in every country anywhere with any language. Just seeing that mom-child story interaction, like that happens everywhere, and it was immediately recognizable whether you understood the language or not, like what happened there. And it was like, huh, like that's familiar.
Arabs
And just
also
it was
beat their
very
children.
interesting.
This is the same thing that we do. They use physical
It
violence
wasn't
to teach
beating,
their kids values. It's the exact same thing. Wow. Yeah. No.
But
No.
it just
Exactly.
it was
Yeah.
it was
When I've
interesting.
been abroad, if I can go to, not a McDonald's, because usually McDonald's are the same, but like one of the fun things that I do is if I go somewhere that I haven't been, or when I first time I go there, I go to a McDonald's and maybe I don't even buy anything. I just want to see what it's like. And I want to see if it's better, because sometimes McDonald's are way better abroad than they are in the US. Sometimes they're worse. But also I take a look at their menu and I order anything that's weird that we just don't have in the US. I'm not going to go there and get a McChicken, because like why would I do that? Some people do, and like hell no. But then I also want to go to I've been to a Walmart in Canada, like that's sort of a thing, or their version of a Walmart like you just mentioned, or try to go to a place that's super American food and see how they screw it up, or as has sometimes been the case, be like, oh, this is actually better and it seems like it has better ingredients. Yeah, those are amazing experiences. I know that travel involves, oh, hey, it's the pyramids and it's the Eiffel Tower, but also what I just mentioned, that's some of my favorite personal memories. I don't bring a group with me, so I'm not hanging out with the locals there, but just on my own, Lee time. Those are fun things, and when they're really different or really similar, I'll remember that. You've just posted something from Reuters. Oh yeah, Walmart's Chile workers end strike, extend contract 18 months, just like you were saying. Yeah. Oh, it's so crazy. I expected in Canada. I didn't expect to have Chat GPT tell me that Mexican Walmart workers are better off than in the United States, and it sounds like Chilean Walmart workers are also better off than workers in the United States. Like that's
So
why I think our empire is crumbling.
yeah, one of kind of reading through that article, there's some interesting things in there. One of them is that Walmart was they were kind of threatening like, hey, we're going to close like all 75 or 80 stores here in Chile from this, and but apparently there are some of the local laws in place in some of the various regions of Chile that um, that kind of govern union interaction, that basically allow an employer to extend an existing contract for up to 18 months to continue negotiation, rather than just like, well, the contract ended, so like the strike happens now. And so they basically opted to do that. They said, well, we'll if you'll basically if you'll agree to this, like, yes, we know you want these demands met, but in the meantime, nobody's working, so like we'll extend the existing contract under this law for the next year and a half, and we'll continue to kind of work through stuff. And so the union was basically like, yeah, that's not ideal, but at least we have something while this continues.
It'll just be really funny though when 18 months from now they just close all the stores. So touche,
Maybe, I don't know.
Walmart. Really? So they have like 80 stores in Chile? They have like 80 Walmart stores in that country?
It looks like, according to that Reuters article, it's like 85.
Wow. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT this really quick. What's the state with the most Walmarts? I have no idea.
But if you just do like a Google image search for marjane in Morocco, you will see like, oh, this looks just like almost a carbon copy of Walmart. Like it's even the same colors and like store design as Walmart.
Oh, it's like one of those things where you're in China and you walk into an Apple store and you're like, wow, I didn't know they had an Apple store in this city. It's like, this is not an Apple store. They sell Apple products, but this is just a complete ripoff. This is not an Apple store. They just copy it one to one. So how do you spell marjane? What is that?
Marjane.
Morocco marjane. Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess it sort of looks like, oh, no, yeah, no, here's the square. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this does look like a
It
sharing
just
this
looks like
over on
Walmart.
Twitch and Rumble. I was like, okay, this just looks like a normal store. I'm like, oh, no, there's the Walmart square. Yep, I see that. Yeah, it's weird to see the Arabic, but yeah, it looks like a Walmart. But they didn't have what's the cheap Walmart brand? Is it everyday value? What's it called? Good value?
Great value.
Great value.
I don't know. I don't know if they had a store brand. I'm not so I was not fluent enough in Arabic to recognize whether packaging
Plus, you
was
had gotten all that
store brand or not.
Bitcoin, so you guys were not buying the store brand products. You were buying the real products. You're like, we're going to spend our Bitcoin money here.
But yeah, if you look through a few of those, you can see like there's a couple shots of like the grocery section where like, oh, there's just like big open like big open tubs of spices. It's like, oh well, that's how it's different.
Was there any specific reason you chose Morocco to spend your Bitcoin thousands of dollars?
Yeah, that was we'd been talking about going on vacation somewhere for a while, and we both had a list of different places that we wanted to go. And that was on our kind of bucket list places to go at some point. And there wasn't nearly so much overlap. But and we wanted to do a big trip because we were kind of planning on having a kid soon. And so we're like, well, that's going to be a lot harder to do once we have a kid. So let's like do this now, and then we'll work on having a kid when we get back. And so it was kind of, our, big vacation before having a kid. And, and Morocco was on both of our lists. And,
was there any chance Billy was conceived in a Moroccan Walmart?
No. But it did happen shortly thereafter. It was within a few months of getting back. So, it was effectively according to plan,
So that means Billy was just conceived inside of a normal Walmart. I don't know why inside a Walmart, but yeah. Back in the patio furniture area, no one ever pays attention.
Yeah. But kind of back on the whole strike thing, it does seem interesting that, effectively, Walmart in the US anyways, and perhaps in Canada and maybe Amazon writ large have effectively positioned themselves. They have grown large enough without a union to where they can effectively use the power that they have to kind of block union efforts.
Yeah, they're like the opposite of like the New York City public school system, where like it can't institute reform and they can't like do standardized test scores and things like that because the unions are like, how dare you judge teachers on how well their students do, which I understand in theory, but like they can't do anything. They have these rubber room teachers that have like assaulted students, and as long as they show up on time, they get a full salary, they get a full pension. It's the exact opposite of that.
Right. But yeah, that's my hot take. That I'm glad that actually led to some more interesting discussion.
Well, yeah, you went to a Walmart in Morocco. Texas, I guess. Well, Walmart's from is in Alabama. Whatever it is, Texas has the most Walmart
Arkansas.
locations. Arkansas, yeah, locations of any U.S. state. As of recent data, Texas has over 600 Walmart stores. That includes super centers, neighborhood markets, and other formats. I don't think I've ever seen a Walmart neighborhood market. Is that like an urban Walmart? That's weird.
No, that's a grocery store only Walmart.
A
So, you know,
grocery
like
store only Walmart. I've never
Yeah.
seen a grocery store only Walmart. So they don't have like clothes and shoes in a pharmacy.
Right. Well, they have a pharmacy, but yeah, like they don't have clothes or shoes in an electronics section or toy section. It's a grocery store. It's
So
just
they
a Walmart grocery
fully
store.
eclipsed what they started as because they started as a non-grocery store. So a neighborhood market is literally the least Walmart of all Walmarts.
Yeah, so like you have the regular Walmart, which is like just stuff, and then the neighborhood market, which is just groceries, and then the super center, which is, you know, groceries and stuff.
Do you have any neighborhood markets? I've never seen one in my entire life.
I've never seen one. Here's the in Oklahoma. There's one pretty close to where I used to live, where I went to high school at, where my parents used to live. There was one like right around the corner from them in Tulsa. But I don't know where else I've seen them. That's the only place I've really seen them.
I guess if you were working with a pre-existing space and you couldn't just build your own the way that most Walmarts are, um, that makes sense because you're just dealing with a certain amount of square footage. But man, yeah, I don't know if I would go just to a Walmart grocery store. Even if I'm just buying groceries, I want to go to a Walmart because inevitably, I mean, I do a lot of, as you know, my beloved Costco. Love Costco. But when I go to Walmart, whatever I'm getting, even if it's just the not groceries or if it's just the groceries, I want the option because inevitably I see something, even if I don't. I like going to. I mean, that's what the Walmart is. It's
Well,
like going
so
to a Target. If I was going to a grocery store, I would go to a grocery store. Like the whole point of going to a Walmart is that it offers everything. That's so strange to me.
so I think it where it was located, it served a particular niche that was missing. It was located in an area of I guess a neighborhood of kind of Tulsa that was kind of, it was a very suburban kind of section of Tulsa, but it's kind of this section that's kind of spans the you know more well off to less well off, and so it's kind of this transitional neighborhood where like you keep going a little bit farther, and it's like, okay, everything over here is like, there's a lot more money on this side, but if you kind of, for a good portion of that kind of section of Tulsa, it's kind of, intermixed, and but a most of the kind of the primary grocery store around there at the time, and actually the two that were around there were kind of higher end, more expensive grocery stores, and like the Walmart grocery store is definitely like much cheaper than all of them, and like, yeah, maybe there's like less quality produce and stuff like that, but it's like, this is a lot cheaper grocery
But was
store.
this an area that didn't
the other
just
one.
have like a Kroger or something? It didn't have like its own grocery store chains. I understand if Walmart's like, oh, hey, we'll make money here. Yeah, they'll do anything. But
Well, no, they did. It was but so I think in around there the main grocery store chains were Albertsons and Reese's, and Albertsons in general was always seen as a like higher end, more expensive grocery store, and that kind of dominated a lot of the grocery stores in the area. And so, Walmart coming in as like,
they
this
just
is a
didn't
cheap
have a
grocery
cheap
store,
grocery store. Yeah.
not in that area anyways. So
But
yeah,
but do you know?
and
I
there
know I'm
was
asking
a
you a
yeah.
lot about a Walmart grocery store when you were in high school, but did they build that? Because a lot of the times new Walmarts are new
Yes.
construction. A lot of the
Nope. Yeah, it
times
was new construction.
there's nothing else around it, and then other stuff comes later. So it
No,
was
no,
new
it was
construction,
not
and they
like it
said
was
we
not in
don't
an
want
open
a
field.
full size Walmart. Oh, okay. No, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not in an open field, and but it was it was definitely new construction, for the store, but it was it was not like in a developing area. It was a well established area that was a vacant piece of property that they new construction and built a Walmart neighborhood market there.
But like, was it because they were right next to a Foot Locker or something? They couldn't build a bigger store, or did they literally say, "We don't want a Walmart here. We only want a neighborhood market"?
That
Wow, that's surprising.
no,
Because
I mean like
if
there
they
there
need a
was a
cheap grocery store,
there,
you feel like they would need other cheap, shitty stuff too.
I mean there was a there was a regular Walmart just kind of 2 miles away.
And that didn't have a
And
grocery store. It was just the Walmart.
right. And there was a grocery
Okay.
store across the street from that Walmart, but yeah.
So it sounds like what they did was they had pre-existing Walmart, and they didn't want to expand that. Maybe that's just something they don't do. Like, we have what we have, and it'd be better just to build something else. And they, for whatever reason, thought 2 Walmarts within 2 miles of each other, it's not good. But let's bring the Walmart brand. Let's have the groceries. Huh. And did you shop there? Did it become popular?
I mean, yeah, it's always busy, It's still there as far as I know.
Wow. All right. Well, in addition to going to Morocco and going to their version of Walmart and going to Canada and going to Walmart, I need to go to a neighborhood market. I guess this means that sometime I want to be driving down the street and I just want to see a Walmart pharmacy. Like nothing else, just the Walmart pharmacy. That would be interesting too.
Do even like I don't even know how many of those exist, like just pharmacies, because even you look at like Walgreens and CVS and Rite Aid, and even those are like
Oh
most
yeah,
like
just a pharmacy is hard to find in general now. That's a good
right,
point.
right, because those are in large part kind of I guess convenience store plus, if you will.
That's a really unless it's like an old pharmacy or a pharmacy in like a small town that has still survived. You're right. Where do you find just a pharmacy in the US? That is a good point. Huh.
Yeah, I mean you see, so I've seen a couple of them here, but it's like a pharmacy inside of like a medical complex.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's different. Yep. Yep.
Right. But the like just a pharmacy. We've got a few of them around here, but not many of them. And
Are they ones that
and I
have been
think
there
it,
like 50 years? Like Roy's
yeah,
Pharmacy?
yeah. But
Yeah,
I think the
Frankie
margins
J has just
are
tweeted no corporate
margins are pretty
pharmacies,
tight.
but they have a privately owned one. Yes, that was like Roy's Pharmacy. Is that I can imagine some sort of independent or even very small local chain of pharmacies still operating, but that would be because it's still operating. Like I can't imagine anyone just builds a pharmacy because at the least, like you just pointed out, it's a Walgreens and it has all the candy, all the pantyhose, all the hair dye, all the soda, even some basic groceries, if not even more than that. And then they have those once again, I don't have a kid, so I never use it, but they have like those urgent care now in the Walmart or so the Walmarts in the Walgreens, so you can like see a I don't even know if it's a doctor. Is it like a nurse practitioner or something? You can see someone like really early in the morning before your kid goes to school. Have you seen those? They have those like in those big pharmacy stores now.
Yeah, I think I've seen those. I've not used them. I've gotten vaccines at Walmart, and those are because that didn't used to be a thing, but now I think with that was something that seemed to have come about with COVID. That in order for like vaccine distribution, you started seeing pharmacies give
Oh, okay.
actually
So
give the
that was
vaccines,
not a
but
thing, but now they just do normal vaccines at pharmacies now.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't
like I've
realize that's when
gotten.
it switched.
I mean, it may have switched before then, but that from what I can remember, I don't remember that being so much a thing before COVID, and that seemed to be a core part of vaccine distribution, of like doing that quickly rather than everything going through doctors' offices, and and like you'd see kind of pop up clinics with like drive-through flu shots and stuff like that, but just like now, you can, if you go to CVS or Walgreens or Walmart, there's like a list of just regular vaccines that you can just make an appointment online and then go and get. It's not just COVID.
I'd love to be on the fly in the wall in the meeting where they decide which Walmart pharmacies have which vaccines. like, what kind of data do they access to be like, yeah, this one needs the Hep vaccine, and this one, we're just good with COVID here. Yeah, that's funny. Whew. No, that's really, really interesting that we got on that. I was blown away by a Walmart that didn't have stuff, and it was just groceries, which is full circle for Walmart because they started with the opposite. And then jokingly talk about how, oh yeah, one day I just want to be driving down the street and see just a Walmart pharmacy. And then you go, well, Lee, when do you ever see a pharmacy anymore? And like Frankie J says, he has a local one. It's called Kinney Drugs, and it's just a pharmacy. Like, yeah, it's probably just a local thing. And then now the pharmacy, not only is it not just a pharmacy, it has a grocery store and everything else. It's sort of like a Walmart, but it started off as a pharmacy rather than a stuff store. And it hasn't gotten quite as big. Like I could never imagine going into Walgreens the size of a Walmart, but it's the same general principle. But because they started off on the medicine side of things, they embraced that. So now that they have the vaccines, and these like doctor offices, these urgent care things or convenient care, whatever it's called. Urgent care is like the hospital that has a doctor's office in it, whatever they call it. Convenient.
Yeah, that's when like it you don't need to go to the ER, but you don't want to wait a week for an appointment. You kind of like, you need to go today, but you don't need to go to the emergency room. And you can usually do walk-ins.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's not what they have there. Because they're just seeing kids with sore throats. People who maybe want a prescription rather than just buying a bunch of over-the-counter stuff, which they have a ton of course. That's what I've seen it as. I've never used it, but I always see it all the time. It's always kids and elderly people that are waiting on like a couple of chairs outside, because the waiting room is literally just the pharmacy area. So you like go to the back of a Walgreens and it's the actual pharmacy, because of course it's in the back because they don't want that stuff up front. And then they'll just have a couple of chairs and a door, and it's like the one doctor, nurse practitioner that's in there, and then there'll just be people waiting. So everybody's just walking around shopping, and then you're staring at these sick people who are waiting to see the convenient care, whatever the hell it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like CVS calls it their Minute Clinic.
Minute Clinic. Yeah, well, convenient care is probably copyrighted somewhere, so Minute Clinic, yeah. Frankie says many of these pharmacies had flu shots. Then COVID happened and they added more vaccines. Yeah, I think that's right. I bet you could have got a flu shot at a Walmart somewhere before COVID. Yeah. I can't say I ever did, but that seems reasonable. But yeah, now it's probably gone full blown because they had like full rooms when they were doing like Walmart and other pharmacies when they were doing COVID, because you would see the people sitting because you had to sit like 15 minutes. They had like full extensions to the pharmacy that they like had to build on to do that. And why would they not do that again? I never saw anyone in a Walmart like just sitting in a chair get a vaccine. They always like put you in the room and then brought you out of the room, apparently, unless it was really bad. That would be really fun to be like walking and be like, where are the Pop Tarts? And then you just see people shooting up outside the pharmacy. You're like, what's going on here? No, I think that's right, Frank. That makes a lot of sense. Let's reset. This is fun. This has been a really interesting show. It's not the normal show that I normally do, but this sort of brings me back to the stuff that MC Funk and I used to do back on stereo and just back in the day several years ago, where we would just kind of see where the conversation
meander.
brought us. Yeah.
Conversational meandering.
Do you ever use stereo anymore, MC Funk?
No. No, I've logged in once in the past year, I think.
It's interesting because while so many people have moved on and almost no one there, or the people we used to hang out with, it's more functional than it's ever been. Like there's so much stuff that you can do. There's almost too much stuff on stereo now. They went through this whole phase where they tried to be TikTok, and then I think it may have changed hands, because that's where they went to the current. They have this sort of stereo mascot that's like a mouth, and it will like go to different places and like talk to people. Just someone in like a mouth costume. And since they've been doing that, they've been moving away from the TikTok phase. But if you look hard enough and if you press enough buttons, it'll take you back to the TikTok space that stereo created some time ago, and it's really weird. But they have like all these games that you can play, and the avatars move more and are more customizable than they've ever been. So it just boggles the mind if something like stereo existed, in like March of 2020, when Clubhouse was all exclusive and becoming really popular. Like, it's just so interesting to see how it's iterated and changed. And I think sometimes for the worse. There was just something so special sauce about when everybody had to have a co-host and you couldn't see the messages. It just told you there was a number of messages, and you just press the button to play the next one. And if you accidentally pressed it twice, you were done. You couldn't play it again. It was forever lost. There was just something special and not innocent, but sort of pure, of just literally random people being forced together. And then you had voice messages. I cheated, of course. I had my fake co-host, which I had on another phone, so I could host by myself. There was just something special about that. And then speaking of Clubhouse has actually made a bit of a turnaround. So you may have heard me ranting about this over the last year. Clubhouse literally made it almost impossible to have social audio discussions, and they turned everything into rooms where you sent voice messages back and forth. And it was just this huge disaster. The company was burning even quicker than before. And so they made this quick turnaround to start embracing what they had always been before, just audio rooms. And now they've made it even easier to start an audio room than ever before. It's sort of like stereo back in the day. You just say, I want to start an audio room, and they used to find you a co-host. It's more advanced than that on stereo now. But now if you go on a Clubhouse, you can search rooms and you can just start your own room. But you also can just start up a room, and it will find people to join your room, or you'll join a room that someone else just started. So it's kind of gone back to the basics of stereo, except with two co-hosts. There's a lot more. And then the problem is, if you start one of these quick conversation rooms, every time I've played around with it, there's not really a host. It's just a conversation room. So it de-evolves really quickly into people just talking over each other, because the power, of course, is always necessary to kind of bring structure to the nonsense. But back when you only had two co-hosts on stereo, you didn't really need to do that, because two people usually can have a conversation. And if you get upset with the other enough, you just leave and start a new conversation with someone else. So there's not a lot of stuff going on in social audio right now. And of course, there's Chatter, which I won't get started on. I have mixed feelings on Chatter, but the players that are still around, so Clubhouse and stereo, I haven't used Podbean a lot lately, but Podbean is getting more and more shows. They've really weathered the storm. And I think that's mostly because they started off as a podcast company that then offers social audio, as opposed to stereo with social audio, Clubhouse with social audio. So I guess maybe that's the big three that are still around. You have Clubhouse, somehow is still there. stereo for all the critiques I point out and all the problems I've had with it. It's been here the whole time. And outside of Chatter being new, Podbean, I think those are probably the big three. Yeah. Well, this has been fun. We've been going nearly 3 hours. Unless anybody has anything else they want to bring up, maybe we'll start wrapping up the show. What do you got on your docket for the rest of the day, MC Funk? Because you're Billy free for today, right?
I am. Yeah. I mean, it's 7:00. I'm just chilling. Catching up on some shows. And yeah. No, nothing on my plate.
I forget. Do you like sci-fi, right?
Very much so, yes.
Are you watching Silo?
Yeah, I've been watching it. I'm one episode behind currently, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm about there as well. Silo.
I've also really been enjoying Dune Prophecy. That's been pretty cool. Although it's interesting because that's almost more kind of Game of Thrones set in the Dune universe.
Interesting.
And
that's a prequel, very much right?
Yeah.
So
I think
should
it's
I
set
watch
like 10,000
Dune
years
Prophecy first? Because I've not seen any of the Dune movies.
No, no, I don't think that matters. I think this kind of tells the story of how things got to where they are in the movies, but the movies were obviously the book and movies were obviously created, especially the movies.
So
anyways,
is this TV show not based on source material? Then is this all like inferred stuff? They're not working on a specific book here.
I don't know. I think it might be. I don't know, because I think there's a lot more literature wise in the Dune universe than what just happened in the movies. But I'm not well familiar with that, so I don't know.
So we got Silo. I might try the Dune Prophecy. I've been seeing that one popping up. There's this old show that I just finished the first season of. I didn't notice it until now. It might have came out a year or two ago. It's called Teacup, and it's based on a book called like Stinger or something. It's kind of strange. It's a Peacock show. But that's what I've been watching, and just sci-fi movies in general. But yeah, Silo. I really like Silo. But here's the problem with Silo. Like a lot of shows now, they only release an episode a week. And I forget what happens. And so when I first started watching Silo, I think I started watching it when the entire season was available, the entire first season, or at least most of it. So I was able to binge several episodes in a row and not forget anything and watch it kind of like a mini series. And it was great. I really liked it. But now as I'm watching each episode as it comes out each week, I'm forgetting what happened in the first season and what happened a few episodes ago because there's a week in the middle. So I think I might stop watching Silo and just wait until, I can't remember how many more. There's got to be at least a handful of more episodes before we get to the where do they do 8 to 10 episodes a season now. So I might just go cold turkey for a while and then come back to it because I really do prefer the binge. We've been watching TV for most of TV's history. We've been watching it incorrectly. It's much better just to watch a show all the way through.
So it looks like Dune Prophecy is based off a book called Sisterhood of Dune. That's just like in the Dune universe. So, but that's essentially what the series.
But was that by the Dune author, or was that like the rights after he died or something?
It was from 2012.
Is the Dune author still alive? I thought Dune was really old.
I don't know.
Might be a license thing. Whatever. Okay, so it's based on source materials. So okay, well,
yes,
I recognized a few actors just from the PR photos and stuff that I see different places. So it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll check that out. Because now I'm sort of like marveled. I stopped watching Marvel movies at a certain point, and even when a movie came out that I wanted to watch, I thought I have to catch up with like 5 or 6 different movies. I'm just done. So I don't.
Oh yeah, I don't
Marvel
deal with
movies.
Marvel movies anymore because of
Yeah.
that. And and because they also like they tend to really lean into kind of tying in different aspects of the Marvel universe that are connected in other movies, and you end up missing so much context if you're not like if you're not up on 80% of the Marvel universe.
So yeah, I don't watch any of the TV shows. I don't watch any of the movies. I'm just done with Marvel, and I'm okay with that. Despite being really into it at first, I'm just okay. It sucks because the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had such better movies and had so much more success. But I'm way more interested in Superman. It's just Superman is just there's this curse, and Batman since Christopher Nolan, there's just this sort of curse that I guess we're kind of moving away from. But okay,
So
so I
for
don't
some
watch
context
Marvel.
on
But
for
yeah, sorry, go
context
on.
on Dune, the original books which the movies were based on was Frank Herbert. He has passed. His son Brian Herbert is one of the primary authors of I think many of the other books in the Dune franchise. His son, who's 77 now, so his son is certainly getting up there. But his son seems to have kind of carried on the Dune universe that his
Okay.
father started, and
Good to
it looks
know.
like So
This is why I'm worried, because I don't think George R.R. Martin has any kids, does he? Doesn't seem like a guy who has kids. Who's going to carry on? When we don't, I guarantee he's going to die, and we won't have the final Game of Thrones book just for the TV show. Forget all the other stuff. But yeah, so because I don't watch Marvel, I also didn't watch Dune because I never saw the first movie, and then the second movie came out, and I'm like, oh, I have to see the first one, and I never got around to it. And now they have this TV show, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting all marveled now. But okay, maybe I can break into it, so that's good.
Yeah. I also just finished Star Trek Lower Decks, which the series just wrapped up.
Fifth season just wrapped.
Yep, and that was the end of the series. So that was cool. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
I was pretty disappointed with Lower Decks, to be honest. They had a sweet spot. It was either season 1 or season 2. And it's the opposite of most Star Trek because the first season is always really bad. But no, I feel like they didn't take advantage because when you're a cartoon and you're Star Trek, you can do anything, like literally anything. It's not about budgets. I mean, you can anything you can imagine you can do. They could have done an anthology show where each episode or each season, and they could have had short seasons, could have been different sections of Star Trek history. So they could have discovered things about the lost era between basically Kirk and the next generation. They could have like fast forwarded in the future, but not been weird about it, like Discovery. Like they could have gone to like special moments in time. So they could have had an episode on like the Enterprise refit or whatever, or a season on the Enterprise refit, and where they're like the lower decks of the Enterprise refit, or just one episode, whatever it was. They could have done whatever they wanted, and they showed that with the second to last episode of season 5, where they had all the multiverse people, but then the final episode was just the same thing that they always do. It's not super imaginative. It's just kind of funny. And they did the thing like the Orville, where the Orville started off with way too many jokes. The first season of the Orville is just way too much.
Yeah,
and then they figured that out a little bit later. Lower Decks did that too.
Yeah, Orville really came into its own. I was pleasantly surprised at how that series played out. But with the Lower Decks thing, with something like an anthology, you have to kind of consider who would that appeal to, and it would basically be like the hardcore Star Trek nerds, but it would not have really mass appeal. And so,
but did Lower Decks have mass appeal? I would argue it did.
I think it did.
I think it just was cheap enough that they were able to go to 5 seasons with the appeal they had.
I don't know. I watched it with my son, and he loved it.
Okay, well that's fair. I once again, I don't have kids that I know of. Kids, I guess, could appreciate Lower Decks in a way I did not anticipate. I didn't think about that because I'm an adult who watches Rick and Morty, so I don't even think about that.
Right, and so like what I appreciated with Lower Decks was that given that I'm a a Star Trek nerd, and so you're like I certainly get like a lot of the kind of either jokes or plot points that are kind of there because they tie into other things in the Star Trek canon from either Voyager
Giant
or
Spock skeleton.
Enterprise or or Next Generation or Deep Space Nine and so like I get all the references that are thrown into that and like plot points that happen from that. He doesn't, and but is still like well entertained by it.
So I guess the jokes are what he likes, and just sort of the outrageousness, like of Boimler or something, and then you and I can get the other breadcrumbs that they throw out there. But I don't know. I just felt like they could have, because some of the best episodes were not the funny ones, like just the ones that actually did things. It just, I don't know. It was sort of like Disco, but in a different way. Like Discovery, the Klingons looked so different. The technology was way too advanced. Starfleet didn't feel like Starfleet. So you're like, I'm watching a Star Trek-esque show, but it's like Star Trek in Morocco. Like it's some sort of weird approximation.
It was the
right?
Mark Jane of
Yeah.
Star Trek.
But then you watch Lower Decks, they respect the canon. They find all these tiny references, right? So it's the opposite there. Nothing looks out of the ordinary, but it's just too stupid. Like even in the second to last episode, which I think is probably the best Lower Decks episode of the entire series, where you had Curzon Dax and they brought back T'Pol, and they had like 90 Harry Kims running around. Like that was really funny. All of that was great. But then do you remember on the planet they landed when they found that weird warp ring enterprise that does the multiverse travel? That was awesome. That was a great reveal. And when I first saw that ship when they were chasing it, I recognized it. I'm like, oh, where is this going? This is fantastic. But do you remember the protagonist that they ran into, that race of beings that had like just like spears? Like that was stupid. Like it was just so Disney and dumb. Like, so then even when they have things going really well, they can't help themselves. They can't help but just do something really stupid. And there's just so many episodes that in theory were fun, but then they just did something that was so Lower Decks that, okay, maybe because they're trying to make it fun for your son, but I don't know. I think they were trying to do too much. They were trying to be funny.
I mean, in fairness, if you look at like both Next Generation and Voyager, like there was a lot of that there as well, where
but it wasn't
like
cute.
there was some,
like it was still Star Trek-y.
Yeah, but different audiences, but
yeah, no,
but
different audiences. You're right. I think they were trying to do too much. They were trying to make something that true Trek people like you and I could love and appreciate, and I think they did that some of the time. They were trying to do something of their own, so they had a new class of starship. It was the Lower Decks rather than the Upper Decks. They had different types of missions, and I have different views of their success there. But then they also were a cartoon, and by the fact that they're a cartoon, they would skew to a younger audience because they're not Rick and Morty. So even though they have that connection with Mike McMahon or whatever, they were much more of a cartoon that younger people could appreciate. And rather than ignore that, which maybe would have made no sense for them, I think they played into that. But there's only so many things you can do, and I think they tried to do too much, and because of that, they didn't do anything particularly well consistently. If you look at the 5 seasons, there are some great episodes, and this is of course with all Star Trek. Like Voyager, I think Voyager has some of the best episodes of Trek, but their average episode rating, I would take that to be much lower than TNG. I would take that to be lower than Deep Space Nine, especially if we get past the first couple seasons of Deep Space Nine. So Voyager has more range, but maybe it has some of the best episodes that I enjoy. But then Lower Decks, I feel like most of their episodes were just kind of the same. I don't think they really have the range that I saw in that second to last episode. That second to last episode was so interesting and different, still Lower Decks, still had jokes. But like, for instance, when Curzon died, sorry, spoilers, the show's over now. So when Curzon died, like a normal Lower Decks scene would have had him do something cute or something dumb and funny, but instead he dies. He reaches out to Paul, and they're like, oh, we've always been friends. And then she takes in the katra of like all the lives of the symbiont, right? So it all fits in with lore and canon. And then what happens? The next episode, there's literally no follow-up to that. So it was all just token. It didn't mean anything. But for the episode itself, it was pure Trek. It was so good. And even then they had those weird cute aliens that were bothering them. So for me, I'm really upset about Lower Decks because I feel like it had so much potential. I don't think Discovery had any potential from the very first episode. You're like, this is weird, it doesn't make any sense. They tried to course correct so many times, and I think most times it was a complete failure. But Lower Decks, from the moment that they announced it, I thought, well, this could be like Rick and Morty, which is not Star Trek, but like that's interesting. And then once I started watching it, I'm like, oh man, they can do whatever they want. Literally, they can have any guest star come in and just do the voice. Doesn't matter how old they are, how decrepit they are. And I just feel like they missed all those opportunities. So I'm not surprised they didn't last more than 5 seasons.
I mean, 5 seasons is a pretty long run.
But for a cartoon, the amount of work that they put in for 5 seasons versus Disco's 5 seasons, and even Disco's 5 seasons are a joke compared to, Voyager seasons or Enterprise seasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Voyager Discovery gets a lot of hate. I liked it.
When I say a joke, I mean it's like short. Like all the seasons now are short. Like normally, if we just counted episodes, Disco didn't make it 5 seasons. Lower Decks didn't make it 5 seasons.
Sure. Yeah.
But to go back to what you were saying, I hate Disco, and you don't think it was that bad.
No, and I take issue with certainly with some of the decisions, but I think a lot of the things that make a lot of people upset, I don't get so mad about. I do think the whole like space mushroom superhighway thing was stupid. I think that was pretty dumb.
I think it was really interesting, but they needed to make this a post Voyager show. It was a really interesting idea, but for the timeline, it made no sense.
The reason I think it was dumb is because I think there were better ways of doing it that could have explored a kind of what was already there better. They could have it could have been like, oh, they found a way to actually tap into the same type of infrastructure that like the Borg is like transwarp conduits do, and have that be kind of like experimental research into like transwarp conduits, rather than like space mushroom superhighway. Like, come on.
It's actually funny because even though I hate Disco, I would disagree. I was really enthralled by the idea, and the original Stamets,
I just thought it was totally ridiculous.
Who was an asshole. The original Stamets was like, I'm a scientist and like I'm doing science and fuck your feelings. Like I thought that was really compelling, even though everything else was a train wreck. And then of course Stamets became a nice person like everybody on the show, and they tried to course correct, and they had different showrunners. But what did you think about that second to last Lower Decks episode when they're no, it would have been the last Lower Decks episode when the Klingons hit that probability sphere or whatever they called it, and they turned into disco Klingons?
I don't remember because we actually just watched it yesterday, but I was like in and out of it because I was trying.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a bunch of YouTube videos that's been made about it, but that weird Kling Orc thing that Disco did in the first season, and then the second season they were less Kling Orc, and then after that they mostly moved away from that and they tried not to show Klingons.
I don't know, people get there's a lot of hate about how Klingons were depicted in Disco. That is actually one of the aspects of it that I really liked, that I thought was super interesting.
Oh no. Yep. Wow.
So like everybody hates it, but I thought it was super interesting, and especially how they showed a like pretty big difference in how Klingons looked and kind of So, the different houses had they essentially genetic stovepiping, but it wasn't like, all Klingons look like this. It was like, oh, these ones look distinctly different
No,
from these ones. And
no, they all look the same, because there's an episode in the first season where they have the like hollow meeting of the different Klingon houses. And
yeah, no, I remember that.
A lot of fans were hoping that just those guys, since they were on the coffin ship, and the sarcophagus ship or whatever, that they were the weird ones. But then it showed all the other houses and they were basically the same. They all looked like that. There wasn't any variety.
I thought there was, but okay, doesn't matter.
The variety might have been like the variety of races who look human, but they all looked the same Kling orc. So maybe there was a small variety, but they all looked weird. There was not like people who were original series Klingons. There were not people who were like TNG DS9 Voyager Klingons.
No. Yeah, I mean, like there was definitely a distinct, like a distinctly different design, if you will, of what Klingons looked like. But I'm saying within that, they showed more variety than you tended to see in just, like the TNG Klingons all looked the same.
Yeah, Klingons have never, I don't think I've ever seen an Asian Klingon. You see black Klingons like when Cisco and everyone else had to go dress up like Klingons. So you had Chief O'Brien was a Klingon and he looked one way. And then you had Cisco was a Klingon and he just looked the same, but a little bit darker. There's not any variety in normal Klingons.
Right. And I thought in Disco, what I thought was interesting was that, within the Klingons they depicted there, they effectively showed kind of different, for lack of a better term, different races within the Klingons, if you will.
Genetic variety,
yeah. Right.
That could have been, I don't remember it being super noticeable. What I did notice was that in the second season, they made the Klingons look less crazy. They actually made their heads less of a cone. They made them look less ugly. And then so when the Klingons finally departed Disco basically for good, they looked much closer to normal Klingons, but they still looked insane.
Yeah.
But do you know the story about why all that was? Apparently, I read into this, and I guess we'll make this the last thing. Great to have apostate Nate back here. I guess he finished this movie. Well, interested to hear his synopses. I'd like to watch it, so don't tell me too much about it either now or some other time. But I would like to hear your thoughts on it generally. Apparently, Brian Fuller, and that's one of the reasons why Disco was doomed from the beginning, was because he had very specific ideas that he wanted to do, and then when he departed the show, I think was forced to leave the show, whatever it was, they had to sort of pick up the pieces. But even then, if they had hired good people to do that, they could have done a much better job. They hired people whose goal was to not do Star Trek, whether it was Brian Fuller or anybody else. But his idea was that, yeah, the Klingons look weird. Like that was totally him. He designed all that and they decided to run with it. But apparently the reason that Disco looked like a Klingon ship, with like the long neck and the warp nacelles out there on the side like that, without the normal extension, that the warp nacelles were just attached to the hull, was because they were supposed to be designed like a Klingon battleship. What is it? The D7 in canon. There's a D7 that pops up in Disco that they call a D7, and it's like clearly not, because it's one of those weird Disco ships. But it was supposed to look like that so that it travels into Klingon space on some sort of like spy mission. And from afar, the scans say, oh, it's just a Klingon ship. And I'm sure there was more to it than that. But apparently there was going to be a Klingon war and they were going to travel through Klingon space. And they needed to look like a Klingon ship. And then, of course, it got turned into everything else. But apparently those were the original plans. That's why it was shaped that way. And the Klingons looked weird because that was a Brian Fuller thing. And then the Lorca being from the Mirror Universe was not original. Like they wrote that in at the end. And then so Lorca, which was one of my favorite parts of the, aside from asshole Stamets, like Lorca was great. And then they killed him off and we never got to meet Prime Lorca. So I don't know, even the good things about Disco, in my opinion, like just didn't go anywhere and were ruined. So I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad someone liked it, but it's clear.
Yeah, I know most people didn't. I do think I think Strange New Worlds has done pretty well. That's been
Yeah,
pretty good.
because
I like.
Strange New Worlds, even though it's disco-esque, respects Star Trek more. It clearly wants to do its own thing, and that's problematic. But it's like 75% Star Trek. Disco is 25% Star Trek at the most. But yeah, so Strange New Worlds looks great.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of, I've been catching up on some, sci-fi and back to your original question though, I've got nothing really else to do for the rest of the day. Rest of the night, just kind of chilling and relaxing, and probably going to do that tomorrow as well.
Well, hey, you can just rewatch Discovery.
Actually, no,
Season 1.
Tomorrow I have to do some plumbing. So
I don't think you were on that
at
show,
a,
but the Friday after Thanksgiving is called Brown Friday. It's the busiest day for plumbers in America.
Wow. Yeah, in my case, my son was doing the dishes, and what you like, I appreciate that he was doing the dishes. Earlier in the day, I had cooked up a bunch of bacon for a recipe, and I was saving the bacon grease because I like to use it later, but I was letting it cool. I poured it into a cup and I was letting it cool before I put it in the fridge. I did not tell him about this, so that's on me, but he just saw it. It was like, oh, this is a cup with some stuff in it that I need to clean as part of doing dishes, and basically had an entire cup full of bacon grease that he was trying to wash out in the sink and was using cold water, and it basically just turned into cement inside the pipes. So yeah, not awesome.
So for plumbing, do you just pour chemicals down? What do you do to fix that? Wouldn't you just pour?
Well, that's what I tried first, and I've had after 2 giant jugs of a drain cleaner, 24 hours later, there's still just standing water in the sink. So that didn't clear it. So I'm gonna have to probably open up the pipes underneath and run a snake through to try and break up the clog if I can.
Yeah, because hopefully it would have all clogged up right at the top, and then you could break it through. So yeah, good luck to you.
Probably not. I think it's probably past the P trap. So,
oh no. I mean like within reach of a short snake that you would have on you, versus like having a professional come out with one that goes like super super long.
I mean, like the snake you pick up from Lowe's or Home Depot, like those go pretty far.
Oh, did you rent
10, 15 feet? No, like they're cheap.
Oh, okay. You bought.
I had one for years.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, I've had one for years.
I've never seen one at the home use that's like 10 or 15 feet. So okay, I think that'll do it for you.
Yeah. They're pretty cheap. So and hopefully that'll clear it. But that's on my agenda for tomorrow, is to adventures in plumbing.
Yeah, adventures in plumbing. All right. Well, great to have you. Great to catch up on our own meandering topics.
Yeah, man. And Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Bacon grease. Big thanks to MC Funk and Frankie J, who've been here for pretty much the entire show. MC Funk joined a little bit later, but most of the show. And Better Vibes, who was here for the first half of the show and then peaced out at some point. And Apostate Nate, who's back with us, but has not requested to speak, so I'm not sure what that means. But Apostate Nate, I'm not sure when the next show will be. I might take tomorrow off. I might do a show. You'll have to check my Twitter and Discord for that information. I have to think about that more. But I want to hear, okay, maybe you're requesting to speak now. Maybe I can hear really quickly what you thought of the movie, and then we can end the show that way. Yes. Apostate Nate, tell me what you thought of the movie. It looks like it was not straight black and white and no sound. So what was it, and how did you like it? Frankie J says, good show. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Frankie. Merry Christmas to you. Apostate Nate, what'd you think of the movie, and what was it like?
Hey, Lee. It was very long. First, I thought it was much more in the spirit of Werner Herzog's version from the 1970s, Nosferatu the Vampire. Definitely lots of color. every scene is basically its own thing. Every scene is drawn out, and this is what Eggers does. It's almost like he wants you to be able to pause the movie at any time, and you have a photograph worth looking at, so to speak. The actors were terrific. Willem Dafoe, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård, or I don't know if it was Dora Alexander, but whatever Skarsgård was behind there was great. I don't know if I cared for the look of the Nosferatu in this. At times it looked a little CGI to me. I suspect it was CGI a lot of the time. Everything about the Eggers version is bigger, louder, more dramatic. On balance, I would definitely say this is worth your time. It's a really, really emotive film, for sure. And one of the fascinating things about watching it is listening to the reactions of theater goers who aren't accustomed to not only horror, but horror that's especially grim and dark. We're not talking like the comedy of, say, Scream. I mean, this movie is like a noose around the soul. It is dark as shit. And I really do enjoy dark horror. So Apostate Nate gives one thumb up because he's driving with his other hand. Thank you.
Well done. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I'm going to watch, not now, but I'll watch the IMDb preview or something of it after the show ends because I want to kind of experience what you're talking about, how you can pause it and everything is like a painting or something. Yeah, this I'm okay with this. I don't like a lot of remakes. I think they're not good, and it's just because no one wants to try anything anymore. Some of my favorite sci-fi movies are like indie sci-fi movies that are mostly just a script, and it doesn't involve that many people. I've really gotten into that after previously liking more world building stuff like Star Trek in my youth, but this seems good. Like, okay, I didn't know there was a Werner Herzog one in the 70s, but that's certainly 50 years ago. Like, we can redo that one, and of course, the original one is way older than that. So I'm okay with this. And I hate CGI, as I talked about previously in the film, or previously in the today's show. So that doesn't sound good. But aside from that, I am okay with this, and I like hardcore horror, if you will, that's not like Saw. I know you like Saw movies, but I don't need to see people cutting off limbs. I don't need to see people put into wood chippers. But I like horror and gore when it's like zombies. I like horror and gore when it's like vampires, like old school stuff, like a war movie, like that sort of a thing. I don't need to see people cutting off their limbs. Oh wow, we got picture of the. Oh, okay, sure, yeah, no, that's what you're talking about. I'll leave it over in my Discord server. But MC Funk has posted his $20 snake that he got at Home Depot. Yeah, there it is. All right, well, I'm gonna check out Nosferatu on IMDb after this. Big thanks to Apostate Nate for joining us at the end of the show. MC Funk, Frankie J, Better Vibes, everybody else who's on today's show. Thanks, and have a good rest of your Christmas. Merry Christmas.